on, everybody.
I'm not even sure I know
We're
how to turn
live.
on it.
You guys are live.
Woohoo!
Break a leg.
Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome to New Ambassadors Friday Night Footlights, our quarterly event where we put together or present a play that is something that somebody's wanted to always direct or act in. In this case, it's me. I'm David Michael Kirby. I am an officer with New Ambassadors Theater Company on the board. I serve as treasurer. And I am delighted to present to you Kaufman and Hart's The Man Who Came to Dinner. As you can see, we have quite the cast. I'm going to ask them to disappear so I can introduce them to you all at once. There are quite a few folks here, and I want to bring them on. So this play takes place in Missalia, Ohio, in the residence of the Stanleys. So the Stanleys are, well, actually, we'll start with myself. I'm David Michael Kirby, and I'm portraying Sheridan Whiteside, who is literally the man who came to dinner. And Maya Bryn Rosewood plays my secretary, Maggie Cutler, excuse me. And we find ourselves unwilling residents of the Stanley household, as I said, in Missalia, Ohio. And Maya, if you'll disappear while we bring the Stanleys on, thank you. Mr. Ernest W. Stanley is played by Andrew Parks. His wife, Miss Stanley, by Catherine Puma. June Stanley, their daughter, by Miley Binion. Richard Stanley, Oli Corchado, their son. And then they have two servants in the household, John, played by Perrin Pomato, and Sarah, the cook, played by Kirsten Hopkins. And there are the Stanleys. Oh, I almost forgot one of the most critical ones, Harriet Stanley, Mr. Stanley's sister, played by Carolyn Seif, excuse me. Thank you, Stanleys. And here we are in Missalia, Ohio, which has its own unique cast of characters, which include Dr. Bradley, played by Scott Fauble, Nurse Preen, Miss Preen, played by Carla Briscoe, Bert Jefferson, the local newspaper editor, played by Brad Makarowski. Now, Sheridan Whiteside has some eccentric friends, thank you all, which include the Professor Metz, played by Miriam Kulik, Lorraine Sheldon, celebrated actress, by Maria Elena O'Brien, Beverly Carlton, played by Todd Butera, and Banjo, portrayed by Daniel Burns. Now, there are numerous other characters here, so I'm going to do my best not to leave anyone out. Thank you all very much. Friends of Mrs. Stanley's include Mrs. Dexter, played by Natalie Necchi-Farrow, and Mrs. McCutcheon, played by Helene Gaelic. Now, pay attention to these two because they will show up later. Natalie is playing Westcott, who is the head of the radio team who was coming to do Whiteside's broadcast for Christmas Eve. And Helene Gaelic is one of the radio technicians. Now, there's also June's beau, her paramour, Sandy, played by Sean Phillips. There you are, Sean. And we also have Randall Rodriguez, playing numerous characters from a convict to an expressman to a private detective. You never know what he's going to show up as, but you'll be able to see it. I'm looking to make sure I have not left anyone out. I think that's everyone. If I left any of you out, pop on now. Oh, Jasmine. Oh my God. So Jasmine Speece is going to be your storyteller this evening. She is our narrating our stage directions, as well as having been my assistant director, which I really needed a second set of eyes as we rehearsed this, as you will see. So stick around. Thank you, Jasmine. We're going to start up in just a second. Thank you again for tuning in to New Ambassadors Friday Night Footlights. We do have a couple of announcements. The first of which is that we do a monthly lab series. I'm sorry, bi-monthly, every other week of new works in progress. Sorry, I just lost the screen for a second. of new works in progress. And this next lab is coming up a week from today. And Miley Binion, who is playing June tonight, is hosting next week's lab, where we'll present a series of scenes of works in progress and give an opportunity to present feedback. This also happens live on YouTube, and there's a link where we will provide a form. And then finally, our Blurring Boundaries Festival is coming back in June. Not quite ready for prime time. We're gonna film it in the theater and present it on a ticketed live stream event. If you are interested in submitting any work, 12 minutes or less, complete play, you can get all the details on our website, newambassadorstheater.com, THEATRE. And tonight is the deadline. All scripts must be submitted by midnight tonight. All right, I think that covers all of our business, and I believe it is now time to start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, The Man Who Came to Dinner.
The Man Who Came to Dinner by Kaufman and Hart. The scene is the home of Mr. and Mrs. Stanley in a small town in Ohio. Act 1, Scene 1. The curtain rises on the attractive living room in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Ernest W. Stanley in a small town in Ohio. The Stanleys are obviously people of means. The room is large, comfortable, tastefully furnished. Double doors lead into a library. There's a glimpse of a dining room at the rear, and we see the first half dozen steps of a handsome curved staircase. At the other side, bay windows, the entrance hall, the outer door. Mrs. Stanley is hovering nervously near the library doors, which are tightly closed. She advances a step or two, retreats, advances again, and this time musters up enough courage to listen at the door. Suddenly, the doors are opened and she has to leap back. A nurse in full uniform scurries, out of the room.
Dribbling cow.
How is he? Is he coming out?
But the nurse has already disappeared into the dining room. Simultaneously, the doorbell rings. At the same time, a young lad of 21, Richard Stanley, is descending the stairs.
I'll go, Mother.
John, a white-coated servant, comes hurrying in from the dining room and starts up the stairs.
They want pillows.
Well, what's the matter? What is it?
Meanwhile, the nurse is returning to the sick room. The voice is heard again as she opens the doors.
Don't call yourself a doctor in my presence. You're a quack if I ever saw one.
Richard returns from the hall carrying 2 huge packages and a sheaf of cablegrams.
4 more cablegrams and more packages. Daddy's going crazy upstairs with that bell ringing all the time.
Meanwhile, June, the daughter of the house, has come down the stairs, an attractive girl of 20. At the same time, the telephone is ringing.
Oh, dear. June, will you go? What did you say, Richard?
One's from New York. The other one from San Francisco.
There was something from Alaska early this morning.
Yes, that's right.
Who is it?
Before June can answer, the double doors are opened again and the nurse appears. The voice calls after her.
Doesn't that bird brain of yours ever function? You're muted, Carla.
I'll get them right away. He wants some Players Club cigarettes.
Players Club?
They have them at Kitchener's. I'll run down and get them.
Hello? Yes, I'm waiting.
Tell me, Miss Preen, are they bringing him out soon?
We're getting him out of bed now. He'll be out very soon. Oh, thank you.
The last is to John, who has descended the stairs with 3 or 4 pillows.
Oh, I'm so glad. He must be very happy.
And again, we hear the invalid's voice as Miss Preen passes into the room.
Trapped like a rat in this hellhole. Take your fishhooks off me.
Hello? Yes, he's here, but he can't come to the phone right now. London. It's London calling. Mr. Whiteside.
London, oh my.
2 o'clock? Yes, I think he could talk then. All right. Well, who do you think that was? Mr. H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells? On our telephone?
The doorbell again.
I'll go. This is certainly a busy house.
In the meantime, Sarah, the cook, has come from the dining room with a pitcher of orange juice.
Oh, that's fine, Sarah. Is it fresh?
Yes, ma'am.
The doors are opened. Sarah hands the orange juice to the nurse. The voice roars once more.
You have the touch of a sex-starved cobra.
His voice is just the same as on the radio.
She disappears into the dining room as June returns from the entrance hall, ushering in two friends of her mother's, Mrs. Dexter and Mrs. McCutcheon. One is carrying a flowering plant, partially wrapped, the other is holding, with some care, what turns out to be a jar of calf's foot jelly.
Good morning.
Morning. Oh, girls, what do you think? He's getting up and coming out today.
Oh, you don't mean it.
Can
Oh,
we stay and
what?
see him?
Why, of course. He'd
Oh.
love it. Girls, do you know what just happened?
I'll be upstairs, Mother, if you want me.
What? Oh, yes, June. Tell your father he'd better come down, will you? Mr. Whiteside is coming out.
Is he really coming out today? I brought him a plant. Do you think it'll be all right if I give it to him?
Why, I think that would be lovely.
And some calf's foot jelly.
Oh, why, how nice. Who do you think was on the phone just now? H.G. Wells from London. And look at those cablegrams. He has had calls and messages from all over the country and Europe. The New York Times and Radio City Music Hall. I don't know why they'd called. And Felix Frankfurter and Dr. Defoe, the Mount Wilson Observatory. I just can't tell you what's been going on.
There's a big piece about it in this week's Time. Did you see it?
No, really?
Yes, your name's in it too, Daisy. It tells all about it. The whole thing. Listen. Portly Sheridan Whiteside, critic, lecturer, wit, radio orator, intimate friend of the great and near great, last week found his celebrated wit no weapon with which to combat a fractured hip. The Falstaffian Mr. Whiteside, trekking across the country on one of his annual lecture tours, met his Waterloo in the shape of a small piece of ice on the doorstep of Mr. and Mrs. Ernest W. Stanley of Messalia, Ohio. Result: canceled lectures and disappointment of thousands of adoring club women in Omaha, Denver, and points west. Further result, the idol of the airwaves rests until further notice in home of surprise, Mr. and Mrs. Stanley. Oh, possibility. Christmas may be postponed this year.
Well, what do you think of that? Oh, a small piece of ice on the doorstep of Mr. and Mrs. Ernest. Think of it.
Of course, if it were my house, Daisy, I'd have a bronze plate put on the step right where he fell.
Oh, well, of course, I felt terrible about it. I mean, he just never goes to dinner anywhere. And he finally agreed to come here, and then this had to happen. And poor Mr. Whiteside. But it's going to be so wonderful having him with us, even for just a little while. Just think of it. We'll sit around in the evening and discuss books and plays and all the great people he's known. Just think, and he'll talk in that wonderful way of his. He may even read Goodbye, Mr. Chips to us.
Mr. Stanley, solid, substantial, the American businessman, is descending the stairs.
Daisy, I can't wait any longer. Good morning, ladies.
Oh, Ernest, he's coming out any minute. And H.G. Wells telephoned from London, and we're in time. Look!
I don't like this kind of publicity at all, Daisy. When do you suppose he's going to leave?
He's only getting up this morning. I mean, after all, he's had quite a shock, and he's been in bed for 2 whole weeks. He'll certainly have to rest a few days, Ernest.
Well, I'm sure it's a great honor, his being in the house, but it is a little upsetting. Phone going all the time, bells ringing, messenger boys running in and out.
Out of the sick room comes a businesslike looking young woman about 30. Her name is Margaret Cutler, Maggie to her friends.
Pardon me, Mrs. Stanley. Have the cigarettes come yet?
Oh, they're on the way, Miss Cutler. My son went for them.
Thank you.
This is Miss Cutler, Mr. Whiteside's secretary.
How do you do?
How do you do?
May I move this chair?
Oh, you mean he's coming out now?
He is indeed.
Oh, Ernest, call June. June! Mr. Whiteside is coming out!
John, visible in the dining room, summons Sarah to attend the excitement.
Sarah, come on.
Sarah and John appear in the dining room entrance, June on the stairs. Mrs. Stanley and the two other ladies are keenly expectant. Even Mr. Stanley is on the qui-vive. The double doors are opened once more and Dr. Bradley appears, bag in hand. He has taken a good deal of punishment and speaks with a rather false heartiness.
Here we are, merry and bright. Good morning. Good morning. Bring our little patient out, Miss Preen.
A moment's pause, and the wheelchair is rolled through the door. It is full of pillows, blankets, and Sheridan Whiteside. Sheridan Whiteside is indeed portly and Falstaffian. He is wearing an elaborate velvet smoking jacket and a very loud tie, and he looks like every caricature ever drawn of him. There is a hush as the wheelchair rolls into the room. Welcoming smiles break over every face. The chair comes to a halt. Mr. Whiteside looks slowly around into each and every beaming face. His fingers drum for a moment on the arm of the chair. He looks slowly around once more, and then he speaks.
Maggie, I may vomit.
Good morning, Mr. Whiteside. I'm Mrs. Ernest Stanley, remember? And this is Mr. Stanley.
How do you do, Mr. Whiteside? I hope that you are better.
Thank you. I am suing you for $150,000.
How's that? What?
I said I am suing you for $150,000.
Oh, you mean because you fell on our steps, Mr. Whiteside?
Samuel J. Leibowitz will explain it to you in court. Who are those two harpies standing there like the kiss of death?
Mrs. McCutcheon drops the calf's foot jelly. It smashes on the floor.
For jelly.
Made from your own foot, I have no doubt. And now, Mrs. Stanley, I have a few small matters to take up with you, since this corner druggist at my elbow tells me that I shall be confined in this moldy mortuary for at least another 10 days, due entirely to your stupidity and negligence. I shall have to carry on my activities as best I can. I shall require the exclusive use of this room, as well as that drafty sewer which you call the library. I want no one to come in or out while I am in this room.
What do you mean, sir?
But we have to go up the stairs to get to our rooms, Mr. Whiteside.
Isn't there a back entrance?
Why, yes.
Then use that. I shall also require a room for my secretary, Miss Cutler. I shall have a great many incoming and outgoing calls, so please do not use the telephone. I sleep until noon and require quiet throughout the house until that hour. There will be 5 for lunch today. Where is the cook?
Mr. Whiteside, if I may interrupt for a moment.
You may not, sir. Will you take your clammy hand off my chair? And now, will you all leave quietly, or must I ask Miss Cutler to pass among you with a baseball bat?
Mrs. Dexter and Mrs. McCutcheon are beating a hasty retreat, their gifts still in hand.
Well, goodbye, Daisy. We'll call you. Oh, no, we mustn't use the phone. Well, we'll see you.
And they are gone.
Now, look here, Mr. Whiteside.
There is nothing to discuss, sir. Considering the damage I have suffered at your hands, I am asking very little. Good day.
I'll call you from the office today later, Daisy.
Not on this phone, please. Here is the menu for lunch.
He extends a slip of paper to Mrs. Stanley.
But I've already ordered lunch.
It will be sent up to you on a tray. I am using the dining room for my guests. Where are those cigarettes?
Oh, why my son went for them. My son went for them. I'm so sorry. My son went for them. I don't know. I don't know why. He's
Sarah the luncheon slip.
He's here, Sarah. I'll have mine upstairs on a tray.
Sarah and John depart.
Young lady, will you either go up those stairs or come down them? I cannot stand indecision.
June is about to speak, decides against it, and ascends the stairs with a good deal of spirit. Mrs. Stanley is hovering uncertainly on the steps as Richard returns with the cigarettes.
Oh, good morning. I'm sorry I was so long. I had to go to 3 different stores.
Did you travel by ox cart?
Richard is considerably taken aback. His eyes go to his mother, who motions to him to come up the stairs. They disappear together, their eyes unsteadily on Whiteside.
Is there a man in the world who suffers as I do from the gross inadequacies of the human race? What are you doing with that pillow? Fluffing it or milking it? Get away from me. Go in and read the life of Florence Nightingale and learn how unfitted you are for your chosen profession.
Miss Preen glares at him, but goes.
Well, I think I can safely leave you in Miss Cutler's capable hands. Shall I look in again this afternoon?
If you do, I shall spit right in your eye.
What a sense of humor you writers have. By the way, it isn't really worth mentioning, but I've been doing a little writing myself about my medical experiences.
Am I to be spared nothing?
Would it be too much to ask you to glance over it while you're here?
Trapped.
I just happen to have a copy of it with me.
He brings out a tremendous manuscript.
40 years an Ohio doctor, story of a humble practitioner.
I shall lose no time in reading it, if you know what I mean.
Much obliged, and I hope you like it. Well, see you on the morrow. Keep that hip quiet, and don't forget those little pills.
He goes.
Maggie, will you take 40 years below the navel, or whatever it's called?
I must say you have certainly behaved with all of your accustomed grace and charm.
Look here, Puss. I am in no mood to discuss my behavior, good or bad. I did not wish to cross their cheerless threshold. I was hounded and badgered into it. I now find myself, after 2 weeks of racking pain, accused of behaving without charm. What would you have me do? Kiss them?
Very well, Sherry. After 10 years, I should have known better than to try to do anything about your manners. But when I finally give up this job, I may write a book about it all. Cavalcade of Insult, or Through the Years with Prince Charming.
Listen, repulsive, you are tied to me with an umbilical cord of piano wire. And now if we may dismiss the subject of my charm, for which, incidentally, I receive $1,500 per appearance, possibly we can go to work? Oh, no, we can't. Yes?
The last is addressed to a wraith-like lady of uncertain years who has more or less floated into the room. She is carrying a large spray of holly, and her whole manner suggests something not quite of this world.
My name is Harriet Stanley. I know you are Sheridan Whiteside. I saw this holly framed green against the pine trees. I remembered what you had written about Tess and Jude the Obscure. It was the nicest present I could bring you.
She places the holly in his lap and drifts out of the room again.
For God's sake, what was that?
That was Mr. Stanley's sister, Harriet. I've talked to her a few times. She's quite strange.
Strange? She's right out of The Hound of the Baskervilles. You know, I've seen that face before somewhere.
Nonsense, you couldn't have.
Oh well, let's get down to work.
He hands her the armful of holly.
Here, press this in the doctor's book. I see no reason why I should endorse Maidenform Brasiers.
He tears up the letter and drops the pieces on the floor.
Here are some telegrams.
What date is this?
December 10th.
Send a wire to Columbia Broadcasting. You can schedule my Christmas Eve broadcast from the New York studio, as I shall return east instead of proceeding to Hollywood. Stop. For special New Year's Eve broadcast, we'll have as my guests Yasha Heifetz, Catherine Cornell, Schiaparelli, The Luntz, and Dr. Alexis Carroll with Haile Selassie on shortwave from England, Whiteside.
Are you sure you'll be all right by Christmas, Sherry?
Of course I will. Send a cable to Mahatma Gandhi, Bombay, India. Dear Boo Boo, schedule changed. Can you meet me in Calcutta, July 12th? Dinner 8:30, Whiteside. Wire to editor of the Christian Science Monitor. Do not worry, Stinky. Copy will arrive, Whiteside. Arturo Toscanini. Where is he?
I'll find him.
Counting on you, January 4th, Metropolitan Opera House, my annual benefit, Home for Paroled Convicts. As you know, this is a very worthy cause and close to my heart. Tibbet, Rethberg, Martinelli, and Flagstad have promised me personally to appear. Will you have quiet supper with me and Ethel Barrymore afterward? Whiteside.
The telephone rings.
If that's for Mrs. Stanley, tell them she's too drunk to talk.
Hello? Hollywood?
If it's Goldwyn, hang up.
Hello? Banjo!
Banjo, give me that phone.
Banjo, you old so-and-so. How are you, darling?
Come on, give me that.
Shut up, Sherry. Are you coming east, Banjo? Oh, I miss you. No, we're not going to Hollywood. Oh, he's going to live.
Stop dribbling and give me that phone.
In fact, he's screaming at me right now. Here he is.
How are you, you fond behind? And what are you giving me for Christmas? What news, Banjo, my boy? How's the picture coming? How are Wacko and Sloppo? No, I'm all right. Yes, I'm in very good hands. Dr. Crippen is taking care of me. What about you? Having any fun? Playing any cribbage? What? Well, don't take all his money. Leave a little bit for me. Your what? Having your portrait painted? By whom? Milt Gross? No, I'm going back to New York from here. I'll be there for 12 days, and then I go to Dartmouth for the drama festival. You wouldn't understand. Well, I can't waste my time talking to Hollywood riffraff. Kiss Luella Parsons for me. You know where. Goodbye. He took $1,400 from Sam Goldwyn at cribbage last night, and Sam said, Banjo, I will never play garbage with you again.
What is all this about his having his portrait painted?
Salvador Dali. That's all that face of his needs a surrealist to paint it. Now, what do you want, Miss Bedpan?
It's your pills, one every 45 minutes.
He drops them into his lap and hurries out of the room.
Now, where were we?
Here's a cable from that dear friend of yours, Lorraine Sheldon.
Oh, let me see it.
Sherry, my poor sweet lamb, have been in Scotland on a shooting party with Lord and Lady Cunard and only just heard of your port hip. Am down here in Surrey with Lord Bottomley, sailing Wednesday on the Normandy and cannot wait to see my poor sweet Sherry, your blossom girl, Lorraine. In the words of the master, I may vomit.
Don't be bitter, puss, just because Lorraine is more beautiful than you are.
Lorraine Sheldon is a very fair example of that small but vicious circle you move in.
Pure sex jealousy, if I ever saw it. Give me the rest of those.
Lorraine Sheldon, Lord Bottomley, my Aunt Fanny.
It's from Destiny's Tot.
England's little rover boy.
Dear baby's breath, what is this I hear about a hip fractured in some bordello brawl? Does this mean our Hollywood Christmas party is off? Finished my new play in Pongo Pongo, and it's superb. Myself and a ukulele leave Honolulu tomorrow in that order. By the way, the Sultan of Zanzibar wants to meet Ginger Rogers. Let's face it, Oscar Wilde.
He does travel, doesn't he? You know, it'd be nice if the world went around Beverly Carlton for a change.
Hollywood next week. Why couldn't he stop over on his way to New York? Send him a cable. Beverly Carlton, Royal Hawaiian Hotel, Honolulu.
The doorbell rings.
If these people intend to have their friends using the front door,
What do you want them to use? A rope ladder?
I will not have a lot of mildewed pus bags rushing in and out of this house.
Good morning, Mr. Jefferson.
There's nobody home. The Stanleys have been arrested for white slavery. Go away.
But the visitor, meanwhile, has already appeared in the archway. Mr. Jefferson is an interesting-looking young man in his early 30s.
Good morning, Mr. Whiteside. I'm Jefferson of the Massalia Journal.
Get rid of him, Maggie.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whiteside is seeing no one.
Really?
So will you please excuse us? Good day.
Mr. Whiteside seems to be sitting up and taking notice.
I'm afraid he's not taking notice of the Massalia Journal. Do you mind?
You know, if I'm going to be insulted, I'd like it to be by Mr. Whiteside himself. I never did like carbon copies.
Touche, if I ever heard one. And in Massalia, too, Maggie dear.
Will you please leave?
How about an interview, Mr. Whiteside?
I never give them. Go away.
Mr. Whiteside, if I don't get this interview, I lose my job.
That would be quite all right with me.
Now, you don't mean that, Mr. Whiteside. You used to be a newspaper man yourself. You know what editors are like. Well, mine's the toughest one that ever lived.
You won't get around me that way. If you don't like him, get off the paper.
Yes, but I happen to think it's a good paper. William Allen White could have got out of Emporia, but he didn't.
You have the effrontery in my presence to compare yourself with William Allen White.
Only in the sense that William Allen White stayed at Emporia, and I want to stay here and say what I want to say.
Such as what?
Well, I can't put it into words, Mr. Whiteside. It sounds an awful lot like hooey. But the Journal was my father's paper. It's kind of a sentimental point with me, the paper. And I'd like to carry on where he left off.
Just a minute. Then this terrifying editor, this dread journalistic apocalypse is you.
Ah, yes, in a word.
In the future, Sherry, if you wish, I wish you would let me know when you don't want to talk to people. I'll usher them right in.
Young man, that kind of journalistic trick went out with Richard Harding Davis. Come over here. I suppose you've written that novel?
No, I've written that play.
Well, I don't want to read it, but you can send me your paper. I'll take a year's subscription. Do you write the editorials too?
Every one of them.
I know just what they're like. I'm afraid you're that noble young newspaper man, crusading, idealistic, dull. Very good casting too.
You're not bad casting yourself, Mr. Whiteside.
We won't discuss it. Do these old eyes see a box of goodies over there? Hand them to me on your way out.
The trouble is, Mr. Whiteside, that your being in this town comes under the heading of news, practically the biggest news since the Depression.
Pecan butternut fudge.
Miss Green, on her way to the kitchen from the library, stops short as she sees Mr. Whiteside with a piece of candy in his hand.
My, you mustn't eat candy, Mr. Whiteside. It's very bad for you.
My great aunt Jennifer ate a whole box of candy every day of her life. She lived to be 102, and when she had been dead 3 days, she looked better than you do now. What were you saying, old fellow?
I can at least report to my readers that chivalry is not dead.
We won't discuss it. Well, now that you have won me with your pretty ways, what do you want?
Well, how about a brief talk on famous murders? You're an authority on murder as a fine art.
My dear boy, when I talk about murder, I get paid for it. I've made more money out of the Snyder Gray case than the lawyers did, so don't expect to get it for nothing.
Well, then, what do you think of Massalia? How long are you going to be here? And where are you going? Things like that.
Very well. A, Massalia is a town of irresistible charm. B, I cannot wait to get out of it. And C, I am going from here to Crockfield for my semi-annual visit to the Crockfield Home for Paroled Convicts, for which I have raised over $500,000 in the last 5 years. From there, I go to New York. Have you ever been to Crockfield, Jefferson?
No, I haven't. Always meant to.
Oh, as a newspaper man, you ought to go instead of wasting your time with me. It's only about 75 miles from here. Did you ever hear how Crockfield got started?
No, I didn't.
Sit down, Jefferson. It is one of the most endearing and touching stories of our generation. One misty St. Valentine's Eve, the year was 1901, a little old lady who had given her name to an era, Victoria, lay dying in Windsor Castle. Maud Adams had not yet caused every young heart to swell as she tripped across the stage as Peter Pan. Irving Berlin had not yet written the first note of a ragtime rigadoon that was to set the nation's feet a-tapping. And Elias P. Crockfield was just emerging from the state penitentiary. Destitute, embittered, cruel of heart, he wandered on this St. Valentine's Eve into a little church. But there was no godliness in his heart that night, no prayer upon his lips. In the faltering twilight, Elias P. Crockfield made his way toward the poor box. With callous fingers, he ripped open this poignant testimony of a simple people's faith. Greedily, he clutched at the few pitiful coins within. And then a child's wavering treble broke the twilight stillness. "Please, Mr. Man," said a little girl's voice, "won't you be my Valentine?" Elias P. Crockfield turned. There stood before him a bewitching little creature of 5, her yellow curls cascading over her shoulders like a golden Niagara. In her tiny outstretched hand, a humble Valentine. In that one crystal moment, a sealed door opened in the heart of Elias P. Crockfield, and in his mind was born an idea. 25 years later, 3,000 ruddy-cheeked convicts were gambling on the broad lawns of Crockfield home, frolicking in the cool depths of its swimming pool, broadcasting with their own symphony orchestra from their own radio station. Elias P. Crockfield has long since gone to his maker, but the little girl of the golden curls, now grown to lovely womanhood, is known as the Angel of Crockfield, for she is the wife of the warden. And in the main hall of Crockfield, between a Rembrandt and an El Greco, there hangs in a simple little frame a humble Valentine.
And in the men's washroom, every Christmas Eve, the ghost of Elias P. Crockfield appears in one of the booths. Will you sign these, please?
The doorbell.
This aging debutante, Mr. Jefferson, I retained in my employ only because she is the sole support of her two-headed brother.
I understand. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Whiteside. You've been very kind. By the way, I'm a cribbage player, if you need one while you're here.
Fine. How much can you afford to lose?
I usually win.
We won't discuss that. Come back at 8:30. We play three-handed with Elsie Dinsmore. Mets!
John, who has answered the doorbell, has ushered in a strange-looking little woman in her 50s. Her hair runs all over her head, and her clothes are too big for her.
Mets, you incredible beetlehound. What are you doing here?
I explain, Sherry. First, I kiss my little Maggie.
Oh, Mets, darling, what a wonderful surprise.
The enchanted Mets. Why aren't you at the university? Jefferson, you are standing in the presence of one of the great men of our time. When you write that inevitable autobiography, be sure to record the day that you met Professor Annalisa Metz, the world's greatest authority on insect life. Metz, stop looking at me adoringly and tell me why you're here.
You are sick, Sherry, so I come to cheer you.
Mess, you tore yourself away from your little insects and came here? Sherry, you don't deserve it.
How are all your little darlings, Metz? Jefferson, would you believe that 8 volumes could be written on the mating instinct of the female white ant? She did it.
7 on the female, Sherry, 1 on the male.
Lived for 2 years in a cave with nothing but plant lice. She rates 3 pages in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Don't you, my little hookworm?
Oh, please, Sherry, you embarrass me. Look, I brought you a present to while away the hours.
She motions to John, who comes forward bearing a great box wrapped in brown paper. He unwraps it as she speaks.
I say to my students, boys and girls, I want to give a present to my sick friend, Sheraton Whiteside. So you know what we did? We made for you a community, a Planeta Americana, commonly known as the American cockroach. Behold, Sherry!
The paper.
Oroch City. Inside here are 10,000 cockroaches.
10,000? Sarah!
And in 1 week, Sherry, if all goes well, there will be 50,000.
Well, what can go wrong? They're in there, aren't they?
Quiet, please.
Okay. Here in Roach City, they play, they make love, they mate, they die. See, here is the graveyard. They even bury their own dead.
Oh, I'm glad of that, or I'd have to do it.
Shh! Look. Here is where they store their grain. Here is the commissary of the aristocracy. Here, is the maternity hospital. Isn't it fascinating? They do everything that human beings do.
Well.
Please, Maggie, these are my cockroaches.
With these earphones, Sherry, you listen to the mating calls. There are microphones down inside. Listen.
Puts the earphones over Whiteside's head.
How long has this been going on?
Mrs. Stanley starts timorously to descend the stairs. She tiptoes as far as the landing, then pauses as she sees the group below. Meanwhile, Professor Metz, her mind ever on her work, has moved in the direction of the dining room.
Planeta Americana, there are cockroaches in this house. Oh!
I beg your pardon?
The doorbell rings.
Mr. Whiteside, I don't know who this woman is, but I will not stand here and...
Then go upstairs. These are probably my luncheon guests. Metz, you're staying for the day, of course. Jefferson, stay for lunch. Maggie, tell them there'll be 2 more. Come right in. Baker, good morning, gentlemen.
The gentlemen addressed are 3 in number. They are convicts and they look the part. Prison gray, handcuffed together. Baker in uniform is a prison guard. He carries a rifle.
Jefferson, here are the fruits of that humble Valentine. These men, now serving the final months of their prison terms, have chosen to enter the ivy-covered walls of Crockfield. They have come here today to learn from me a little of its tradition. Gentlemen, I envy you your great adventure.
Lunch is ready, Mr. Whiteside.
Good. Let's go right in. You're Michelson, aren't you? Butcher shop murders?
Yes, sir.
Thought I recognized you. After you, Baker. The other fellow is Henderson, the hatchet fiend. Always chop them up in a salad bowl, remember? We're having chicken livers, tetrazzini, and Cherry's Jubilee for dessert. I hope every little tummy is aflutter with gastric juices. Serve the white wine with the fish, John, and close the doors. I don't want a lot of people prying on their betters.
The doors close. Only Mrs. Stanley is left outside. She collapses quietly into the chair. The curtain falls. Scene 2, late afternoon, a week later. Only a single lamp is lit. The room in the week that has passed has taken on something of the character of its occupant. Books and papers everywhere. Stacks of books on the table, some of them just half out of their cardboard boxes. Half a dozen or so volumes, which apparently have not appealed to the master, have been thrown onto the floor. A litter of crumpled papers around the Whiteside wheelchair. An empty candy box has slid off his lap. An old pair of pants have been tossed over one chair, a seedy bathrobe over another. A handsome Chinese vase has been moved out of its accustomed spot and is doing duty as an ash receiver. Mr. Whiteside is in his wheelchair, asleep. Roach City is on a stand beside him, the earphones over his head. He has apparently dozed off while listening to the mating calls of Planeta Americana. Then Miss Preen enters from the library. She brings some medicine, a glass filled with a murky mixture. She pauses when she sees that he is asleep, then, after a good deal of hesitation, gently touches him on the shoulder. He stirs a little. She musters up her courage and touches him again.
I was dreaming of Lillian Russell, and I awake to find you.
Your medicine, Mr. Whiteside.
What time is it?
About 6:30.
Where is Miss Cutler?
She went out.
Out?
With Mr. Jefferson.
He goes into the library. John has entered from the dining room.
All right, if I turn the lights up, Mr. Whiteside.
Yes, go right ahead, John.
And Sarah has something for you, Mr. Whiteside. Made it special.
She has? Where is she? My souffle queen!
Sarah entering with a tray on which reposes her latest delicacy.
Here I am, Mr. Whiteside.
She walks in beauty like the night, and in those deft hands there is the art of Michelangelo. Let me taste the new creation.
With one hand, he pours the medicine into the Chinese vase, then swallows at a gulp one of Sarah's not so little cakes.
Poetry, sheer poetry.
I put a touch of absinthe in the dough. Do you like it?
Ambrosia.
And I got you your terrapin Maryland for dinner.
I have known but 3 great cooks in my time. The Khedive of Egypt had one, my great Aunt Jennifer another, and the third, Sarah, is you.
Oh, Mr. Whiteside.
How would you like to come to New York and work for me, you and John?
Why, Mr. Whiteside?
Sarah, it would be wonderful, Mr. Whiteside, but what do we say to Mr. and Mrs. Stanley?
Just goodbye.
Oh, but they'd be awfully mad, wouldn't they? They've been very kind to us.
Well, if they ever come to New York, we can have them for dinner, if I'm not in town. Now run along and think it over. This is our little secret, just between us, and put plenty of sherry in that terrapin. Miss Preen! Miss Preen!
Yes, yes.
What have you got in there anyway, a sailor?
I was just washing my hands.
What time did Miss Cutler go out?
A couple of hours ago.
Mr. Jefferson called for her?
Yes, sir.
All right, go back to your sex life.
Miss Preen goes. Mr. Whiteside tries to settle down to his book, but his mind is plainly troubled. Harriet Stanley comes softly down the steps.
Dear Mr. Whiteside, may I show you a few mementos of the past? I somehow feel that you would love them as I do.
I'd be delighted. Miss Stanley, haven't we met somewhere before?
Oh, no, I would have remembered it. It would have been one of my cherished memories, like these.
She spreads the portfolio before him.
Look, here I am with my first sweetheart under our lovely beechwood. I was 8 and he was 10. I have never forgotten him. What happy times we had. There's someone coming. I'll come back.
She gathers up her album and vanishes into the dining room. It is Mr. Stanley who comes down the stairs. He is carrying a slip of paper in his hand. A few steps behind him comes Mrs. Stanley.
Now, Ernest, please.
Be quiet, Daisy. Mr. Whiteside, I want to talk to you. I don't care whether you're busy or not. I have stood all that I'm going to stand.
Indeed.
This is the last straw. I've just received a bill from the telephone company for $784. Oklahoma City, Calcutta, Hollywood, Australia, Rome, New York, New York, New York, New York, New York, New York. Now, I realize, Mr. Whiteside, that you are a distinguished man of letters.
Oh, yes, of course. We both do.
Please. But in the past week, we have not been able to call our souls our own. We have not had a meal in the dining room once. I have to tiptoe out of the house in the mornings.
Now, Ernest.
I've come home to find convicts sitting at my dinner table, butcher shop murderers, a man putting cockroaches in the kitchen.
They had just escaped, Ernest.
That's not the point. I don't like coming home to find 22 Chinese students using my bathroom. I tell you, I won't stand for it, no matter who you are.
Have you quite finished?
No, I have not. I go down into the cellar this morning and trip over that octopus that William Beebe sent you. I tell you, I won't stand for it, Mr. Whiteside. I want you to leave this house as soon as you can and go to a hotel. Stop pawing at me, Daisy. That's all I have to say, Mr. Whiteside.
And quite enough, I should say. May I remind you again, Mr. Stanley, that I am not a willing guest in this house. I am informed by my doctor that I must remain quiet for another 10 days, at which time I shall get out of here so fast that the wind will knock you over, I hope. If, however, you insist on my leaving before that, thereby causing me to suffer a relapse, I shall sue you for every additional day that I am held inactive, which will amount, I assure you, to a tidy sum.
This is outrageous. Do we have to?
As for the details of your petty complaints, those 22 Chinese students came straight from the White House, where I assure you, they used the bathroom too.
Mr. Whiteside, my husband didn't mean.
Yes, I did. I meant every word of it.
There is only one point that you make in which I see some slight justice. I do not expect you to pay for my telephone calls, and I shall see to it that restitution is made. Can you provide me with the exact amount?
I certainly can, and I certainly will.
Good. I shall instruct my lawyers to deduct it from the $150,000 that I am suing you for.
Furious, he storms up the steps again, Mrs. Stanley following.
And I'll thank you not to trip over that octopus which once belonged to Chauncey Depew. Give me the Missalia Journal, please. Hello, Journal. Is Mr. Jefferson there? When do you expect him? No message.
Then the sound of the outer door opening. It is the younger Stanleys, Richard and June, who enter. They are in winter togs with ice skates under their arms. In addition, Richard has a camera slung over his shoulder. They slide towards the stairs, trying to be as unobtrusive as possible.
Come here, you two. Come on. I'm not going to bite you. Now look here, I am by nature a gracious and charming person. If I err at all, it is on the side of kindness and amiability. I have been observing you two for this past week, and you seem to me to be extremely likable young people. I'm afraid that when we first met, I was definitely unpleasant to you. For that, I am sorry, and I wish that in the future you would not treat me like something out of Edgar Allan Poe. How do you like my new tie?
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. This makes things much pleasanter. And I think the tie is very pretty.
Well, now that we're on speaking terms, Mr. Whiteside, I don't mind telling you that I have been admiring all your ties.
Oh, do you like this one?
I certainly do.
Oh, it's yours. Really, this curious legend that I am a difficult person is pure fabrication. Ice skating, eh? Me, I used to cut figure eights myself, arm in arm with Betsy Ross, waving the flag behind us.
It was wonderful on the ice today. Miss Cutler and Mr. Jefferson were there.
Maggie, skating?
Yes, and she's good too. I got a marvelous picture of her.
Were they still there when you left?
I think so. Say, Mr. Whiteside, mind if I take a picture of you? I'd love to have one.
Very well. Do you want my profile?
I'm afraid you're done for, Mr. Whiteside. My brother is a camera fiend.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. I got a great one.
He and June go up the stairs as Maggie enters from the hallway.
Hello there. Oh, good evening, Sherry. Really, Sherry, you've got this room looking like an old parrot cage. Did you nap while I was out? What's the matter, dear? Cat run away with your tongue?
She is on her knees, gathering up debris.
Don't look at me with those great cow eyes, you sex-ridden hag. Where have you been all afternoon? Alley-catting around with Bert Jefferson?
Sherry, Bert read his play to me this afternoon. It's superb. It isn't just that play written by a newspaper man. It's superb. I want you to read it tonight.
He puts it in his lap.
It just cries out for Cornell. If you like it, will you send it to her, Sherry? And will you read it tonight?
No, I will not read it tonight or any other time. And while we're on the subject of Mr. Jefferson, you might ask him if he wouldn't like to pay your salary, since he takes up all your time.
Oh, come now, Sherry. It isn't as bad as all that.
I have not even been able to reach you, not knowing what haylofts you frequent.
Oh, stop behaving like a spoiled child, Sherry.
Don't take that patronizing tone with me, you flea-bitten Cleopatra. I am sick and tired of your sneaking out like some lovesick high school girl every time my back is turned.
Well, Sherry.
She pulls together the library doors and faces Whiteside.
I'm afraid you've hit the nail on the head.
Stop acting like Zazu Pitts and explain yourself.
I'll make it quick, Sherry. I'm in love.
Nonsense. This is merely delayed puberty.
No, Sherry, I'm afraid this is it. We are going to lose a very excellent secretary.
You are out of your mind.
Yes, I think I am, a little. But I'm a girl who's waited a long time for this to happen. And now it has. Mr. Jefferson doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to try my darndest to marry him.
Is that all?
Yes. Except, well, I suppose this is what might be called my resignation, as soon as you've got someone else.
Now, listen to me, Maggie. We have been together for a long time. You are indispensable to me, but I think I am unselfish enough not to let that stand in the way where your happiness is concerned. Because whether you know it or not, I have a deep affection for you.
I know that, Sherry.
That being the case, I will not stand by and allow you to make a fool of yourself.
I'm not, Sherry.
You are, my dear. You are behaving like Tilly the Toiler. It's incredible. I cannot believe that a girl who for the past 10 years has had the great of the world served up on a platter before her, I cannot believe that it is anything but a kind of temporary insanity when you are swept off your feet in 7 days by a second-rate small-town newspaper man.
Sherry, I can't explain what's happened. I can only tell you that it's so. It's hard for me to believe too, Sherry. Here I am, a hard-bitten old cynic, behaving like True Story magazine and liking it, discovering the moon and ice skating. I keep laughing to myself all the time, but there it is. What can I do about it, Sherry?
We're leaving. We are leaving here tomorrow, hip or no hip. We're leaving here tomorrow. I don't care if I fracture the other one. Get me a train schedule and start packing. I'll pull you out of this, Miss Stardust. I'll get the ants out of those moonlit pants.
It's no good, Sherry. I'd be back on the next streamlined train.
It's completely unbelievable. Can you see yourself, the wife of the editor of the Mazzalia Journal, having an evening at home for Mr. and Mrs. Stanley, Mr. and Mrs. Poopface, and the members of the Book of the Month Club?
Sherry, I have had 10 years of the great figures of our time and don't think I'm not grateful to you for it. I've loved every minute of it. They've been wonderful years, Sherry, gay and stimulating. Why, I don't think anyone has ever had the fun that we've had. But a girl can't laugh all the time, Sherry. There comes a time when she wants Bert Jefferson. You don't know Bert, Sherry. He's gentle and he's unassuming and, well, I love him. That's all.
I see. Well, I remain completely unconvinced. You are drugging yourself into this Joan Crawford fantasy. And before you become completely anesthetized, I shall do everything in my power to bring you to your senses.
Now listen to me, Whiteside. I know you. Lay off. I know what a devil you can be. I've seen you do it to other people, but don't you dare do it to me. Don't drug yourself into the idea that all you're thinking of is my happiness. Ha! You're thinking of yourself a little bit too, and all those months of breaking in somebody new. I've seen you in a passion before when your life has been disrupted and you couldn't dine in Calcutta on July 12th with Boo Boo. Well, that's too bad, but there it is. I'm going to marry Bert, if he'll have me, and don't you dare try any of your tricks. I'm on to every one of them. So lay off. That's my message to you, Big Lord Fauntleroy.
And she is up the stairs. Mr. Whiteside bangs the arm of his chair that slaps at the manuscript in his lap. The dawn of an idea comes into his mind. He takes the manuscript out of its envelope. He quickly wheels himself over to the table and hunts hurriedly through a pile of old cablegrams and letters until he finds the one he wants. With this in his hand,
Long distance, please. I want to put in a transatlantic call. Hello, transatlantic operator. This is Messelia 1242. I want to talk to Miss Lorraine Sheldon, Sheldon. She's on the Normandy. It sailed from Southampton day before yesterday. Will it take long? All right. My name is Whiteside. Thank you.
He hangs up as the doorbell rings. He goes back to the manuscript again and looks through it. John then ushers in Dr. Bradley.
Well, good evening, Mr. Whiteside.
Come back tomorrow. I am busy.
Now, what would be the best news that I could possibly bring you?
You have hydrophobia.
No. Mr. Whiteside, you are a well man. You can get up and walk now. You can leave here tomorrow.
What do you mean?
Well, sir, I looked at those x-rays again this morning, and do you know what? I had been looking at the wrong x-rays. I had been looking at old Mrs. Moffat's x-rays. You are perfectly, absolutely well.
Lower your voice, will you?
Well, what's the matter? Aren't you pleased?
Delighted, naturally. This is a very unexpected bit of news, however. It comes at a very curious moment. Dr. Bradley, I have some good news for you, too. I have been reading your book, 40 Years of, what is it?
An Ohio doctor, yes?
I consider it extremely close to being one of the great literary contributions of our time.
Mr. Whiteside.
So strongly do I feel about it, Dr. Bradley, that I have a proposition to make to you. Just here and there, the book is a little uneven, a little rough. What I would like to do is stay here in Messelia and work with you on it.
Mr. Whiteside, I would be so terribly honored.
Yes, but there is just one difficulty. You see, if my lecture bureau and my radio sponsors were to learn that I am well, they would insist on my fulfilling my contracts, and I would be forced to leave Messelia. Therefore, we must not tell anyone, not anyone at all, that I am well.
I see. I see.
And not even Miss Cutler, you understand?
No, I won't. Not at all. Not even my wife.
That's fine.
So when do we start work? Tonight? I've got just one patient that's dying, and then I'll be perfectly free.
The phone rings.
Tomorrow morning, this is a private call. Would you forgive me? Hello? Yes, I'm on. Tomorrow morning. Yes, this is Mr. Whiteside on the phone. Put them through. Hello? Is this my blossom girl? How are you, my lovely? No, I'm all right. Yes, still out here. Lorraine, dear, when do you land in New York? Tuesday, that's fine. Now listen closely, my pet. I've great news for you. I've discovered a wonderful play with an enchanting part in it for you. Cornell would give her eye teeth to play it, but I think I can get it for you. Now, wait, let me tell you. The author is a young newspaper man in this town. Of course, he wants Cornell, but if you jump on a train and get right out here, I think you could swing it if you play your cards right. No, he's young and very attractive and just your dish, my dear. It just takes a little doing and you're the girl that can do it. Isn't that exciting, my pet? Yes, that's right. And look, don't send me any messages. Just get on a train and arrive. Oh, no, don't thank me, darling. It's perfectly all right. Have a nice trip and hurry out here. Goodbye, my blossom.
Miss Preen enters, medicine in hand and frightened as usual.
Oh, hello, Miss Preen. My, you're looking radiant this evening.
What?
Whiteside takes the medicine from her and swallows it at one gulp. Miss Preen retreats into the library just as Maggie comes down the stairs. She is dressed for the street.
Sherry, I'm sorry for what I said before. I'm afraid I was a little unjust.
Oh, that's all right, Maggie. We all lose our tempers now and then.
I promised to have dinner with Bert and go to a movie, but we'll come back and play cribbage with you instead.
Fine.
See you soon, Sherry dear.
She kisses him lightly on the forehead and goes on her way. Whiteside looks after her until he hears the door close.
I was just a little rabbit in the sunshine. I was just a little rabbit in the way.
Curtain. Act 2. A week later, late afternoon. The room is now dominated by a large Christmas tree set in the curve of the staircase and hung with the customary Christmas ornaments. Sarah and John are passing in and out of the library, bringing forth huge packages which they are placing under the tree. Maggie sits at a little table at one side, going through a pile of correspondence.
I guess that's all there are, Miss Cutler. They're all under the tree.
Thank you, John.
My, I never saw anyone get so many Christmas presents. I can hardly wait to see what's in them.
When will Mr. Whiteside open them, Miss Cutler?
Well, John, you see, Christmas is Mr. Whiteside's personal property. He invented it and it belongs to him. First thing tomorrow morning, Mr. Whiteside will open each and every present and there will be the damnedest fuss you ever saw.
My, look who he's got presents from. Shirley Temple, William Lyon Phelps, Billy Rose, Ethel Waters, Somerset Maugham. I can hardly wait for tonight.
The doorbell rings. John departs for the door.
My, it certainly is wonderful. And Mr. Whiteside's tree is so beautiful too. Mr. and Mrs. Stanley had to put theirs in their bedroom, you know. They can hardly undress at night.
Hello, Maggie. Merry Christmas, Sarah.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Jefferson.
Say, business is good, isn't it? My, what a little quiet blackmail and a weekly radio hour can get you. What did his sponsors give him?
They gave him a full year's supply of their product, cream of mush.
Well, he'll give it right back to them over the air.
Wait until you hear tonight's broadcast, old fellow. It's so sticky I haven't been able to get it off my fingers since I copied it.
I'll bet. Look, I'll come clean. Under the influence of God knows what, I have just bought you a Christmas present.
Why, Mr. Jefferson, sir.
Only, I'd like you to see it before I throw away my hard-earned money. Can you run downtown with me and take a look at it?
Bert, this is very sweet of you. I'm quite touched. What is it? I can't wait.
A 2-year subscription to Pick, Click, Look, and Listen. What do you think I'm going to tell you? Come on down and see.
Sherry, I'm going out for a few minutes with Horace Greeley. I won't be long.
She goes into the hallway for her coat and hat.
Noel, Mr. W, how about some cribbage after your broadcast tonight?
The Whiteside wheelchair is rolling into the room.
No, I will not play cribbage with you, Klondike Harry. You have been swindling the bejesus out of me for 2 weeks. Where are you off to now, Madam Butterfly?
I'm being given a Christmas present. Anything you want done downtown?
Yes, the Bing Baby a lollipop. What are you giving me for Christmas, Jefferson? I have enriched your feeble life beyond your capacity to repay me.
Yes, that's what I figured. So I'm not going to give you anything.
I see. Well, I was giving you my old trust, but now I shan't. Maggie, what time are those radio men coming?
About 6:30. I'll be here. You've got to cut, Sherry. You're 4 minutes over. Oh, by the way, there was a wire from Beverly. It's there somewhere. He doesn't know what train he can get out of Chicago, but he'll be here sometime this evening.
Good. Is he staying overnight?
No, he has to get right out again. He's sailing Friday on the Queen Mary.
Think I could peek in the window at him and get a look at him? Beverly Carlton used to be one of my heroes.
Used to be, you ink-stained hack. Beverly Carlton is the greatest single talent in the English theater today. Take this illiterate numbskull out of my sight, Maggie, and don't bring him back.
Yes, Mr. Whiteside, sir. I won't come back until Beverly Carlton gets here.
Where are we going, Bert? I want to know what you bought me. Oh, I feel like a 10-year-old kid.
You know, you look like a 10-year-old kid right now, Maggie, at that.
Whiteside looks after them, listens until the door closes, then wheels himself over to the telephone.
Will you give me the mansion house, please? No, I don't know the number. Hello, mansion house. Tell me, has a Miss Lorraine Sheldon arrived yet? Yes, that's right, Miss Lorraine Sheldon from New York. She hasn't, eh? Thank you.
He hangs up, drums with his fingers on the chair, looks at his watch. He slaps his knees impatiently, stretches. Then, vexed at his self-imposed imprisonment, he looks cautiously around the room, peers up the stairs. Then slowly he gets out of his chair, standing beside it. He indulges in a few mild calisthenics, cautiously around all the while. The sound of the library doors being opened sends him scurrying back to his chair. It is Miss Preen.
What do you want coming in like that? Why don't you knock before you come into a room?
But I wasn't coming in. I was coming out.
Miss Preen, you were obviously in this room. This is true, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but I was...
Therefore, you came in. Hereafter, please knock.
There are some expressmen here with the crate, Mr. Whiteside. I told them to come around the front.
Thank you, John. Don't stand there, Miss Preen. You look like a frozen custard. Go away.
Expressmen carrying a crate enter from the front door.
Bring it right in here. Careful there, don't scrape the wall. Some kind of animals.
I'll say it's animals. We had to feed them at 7 o'clock this morning.
Bring it over here, John. Who's it from?
Admiral Richard E. Byrd? Say.
Why, they're penguins. 2, 3, 4 penguins. Hello, my pretties.
Directions for feeding them are there right on top. These two slats are open.
To be fed only whale, blubber, eels, and cracked lobster.
Yeah, they got Coca-Cola this morning and liked it.
Hello, hello, hello. You know, they make the most entrancing companions, John. Admiral Byrd has one that goes on all his lecture tours. I want these put in the library with me. Take them right in.
Yes, sir.
Better tell Sarah to order a couple of dozen lobsters. I don't suppose there's any whale blubber in Massalia. Oh, yes, there is.
The door was open, so good afternoon, Mr. Whiteside, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Do you happen to know if eels are in season, Doctor?
How's that?
Never mind, I was a fool to ask you.
I opened those 2 slats a little, Mr. Whiteside. They seemed so crowded in there. So.
Thank you, John. On your way downtown, Doctor, will you send these airmail? Mrs. Cutler forgot them. Miss Cutler forgot them.
He hands him 2 letters.
Goodbye. Sorry you dropped in just now. I have to do my yogi exercises.
But Mr. Whiteside, it's been a week now. My book, you know. When are we going to work on the book? I was hoping that today you'd be. Good afternoon, Miss Preen.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bradley.
She opens the doors to enter the library, then freezes in her tracks. She closes the doors again.
Doctor, perhaps I'm not well, but when I opened the doors just now, I thought I saw a penguin with a thermometer in its mouth.
What? What's this? Have those penguins got out of their crate?
Thank God. I thought that perhaps the strain had been too much.
Penguins?
Yes, Doctor. Will you go in and capture them, please, and put them back in their crate? There are 4 of them.
Very well. Do you suppose that later on, Mr. Whiteside?
We'll see. We'll see. First, catch the penguins. And Miss Preen, will you amuse them, please, until I come in?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Meanwhile, John has descended the stairs.
The Christmas tree just fell on Mr. Stanley. He's got a big bump on his forehead.
Why? Isn't that too bad? Go ahead, Doctor. Go ahead, Miss Preen.
Hello, Mr. Whiteside.
Hello, Dickie, my boy.
Mr. Whiteside, will you have some time later today?
I don't know, Doctor. I'm busy right now.
Well, suppose I wait a little longer. I'll wait a little while.
He goes into the library.
Dr. Bradley is the greatest living argument for mercy killings. Well, Dickie, would you like a candid camera shot of my left nostril this evening?
I'm sort of stacked up on those. Have you got a minute to look at some new ones I've taken?
I certainly have. Why, these are splendid. Richard, there's real artistry in them. They're as good as anything by Margaret Bourke White. I like all the things you've shown me. This is the essence of photographic journalism.
Say, I didn't know they were as good as that. I just like to take pictures, that's all.
Richard, I've been meaning to talk to you about this. You're not just a kid fooling with a camera anymore. These are good. This is what you ought to do. You ought to get out of here and do some of the things you were telling me about. Just get on a boat and get off wherever it stops. Galveston, Mexico, Singapore. Work your way through and just take pictures of everything.
Say, wouldn't I like to, though? It's what I've always I've been dreaming of for years. I could do that. I'd be the happiest guy in the world.
Well, why can't you do it? If I were your age, I'd do it like a shot.
Well, you know why, Dad.
Richard, do you really want to do this more than anything else in the world?
I certainly do.
Then do it.
June comes quietly in from the dining room.
Hello, Dick. Good afternoon, Mr. Whiteside.
Hello, my lovely. So, I'm afraid it's up to you, Richard.
I guess it is. Well, thank you, Mr. Whiteside. You've been swell, and I'll never forget it.
Righto, Richard.
June, are you coming upstairs?
In a few minutes, Richard.
Well, knock on my door, will you? I want to talk to you.
Yes, I will.
Richard disappears up the stairs.
June, my lamb, you were too young to know about the Elwell murder, weren't you? Completely fascinating. I have about 5 favorite murders, and the Elwell case is one of them. Would you like to hear all about it?
Well, Mr. Whiteside, I wanted to talk to you. Would you mind? For a few minutes? It's important.
Well, certainly, my dear. I take it this is all about your young Lothario at the factory.
Yes. I just can't seem to make Father understand. It's like talking to a blank wall. He won't meet him. He won't even talk about it. What are we going to do? Mr. Whiteside, Sandy and I love each other. I don't know where to turn.
My dear, I'd like to meet this young man. I'd like to see him for myself.
Would you, Mr. Whiteside? Would you meet him? He's outside now. He's in the kitchen.
Oh, good. Bring him in.
Mr. Whiteside, he's a very sensitive boy. You will be nice to him, won't you?
God damn it, June. When will you learn that I am always kind and courteous? Bring this idiot in.
Sandy! Sandy!
She stands aside as a young man enters, keen-looking, neatly but simply dressed.
Here he is, Mr. Whiteside. This is Sandy.
How do you do, sir?
How do you do? Young man, I've been hearing a good deal about you from June this past week. It seems, if I have been correctly informed, that you two babes in the woods have quietly gone out of your minds.
There's another name for it. It's called love.
Well, you've come to the right place. Dr. Sheridan Whiteside, broken hearts mended, brakes relined, hamburgers. Go right ahead.
Well, if June has told you anything at all, Mr. Whiteside, you know the jam we're in. You see, I work for the union, Mr. Whiteside. I'm an organizer. I've been organizing the men in Mr. Stanley's factory, and Mr. Stanley's pretty sore about it.
I'll bet.
Did June tell you that?
Yes, she did.
Well, that being the case, Mr. Whiteside, I don't think I have the right to influence June. If she marries me, it means a definite break with her family, and I don't like to bring that about. But Mr. Stanley's so stubborn about it, so arbitrary. You know, this is not something I've done just to spite him. We fell in love with each other, but Mr. Stanley behaves as though it were all a big plot. John L. Lewis sent me here just to marry his daughter.
He's tried to fire Sandy twice out at the factory, but he couldn't on account of the Wagner Act, thank God.
Yes, he thinks I wrote that too.
If he'd only let me talk to him, if he'd let Sandy talk to him.
Well, we've gone over all that, June. Anyway, this morning I got word I needed in Chicago. I may have to go on to Frisco from there. So you see the jam we're in.
Sandy's leaving tonight, Mr. Whiteside. He'll probably be gone a year. We've simply got to decide. Now.
My dear, this is absurdly simple. It's no problem at all. Now, to my jaundiced eye.
The telephone rings.
Oh. Hello? Yes. This is Whiteside. Excuse me, it's a long distance call. Oh, put him on. It's Walt Disney in Hollywood. Hello? Hello? Walt, how's my little dash genius? Yes, I hoped you would. How'd you know I was here? I see. Yes, I'm listening. 10 seconds more. Mr. Disney calls me every Christmas. Yes, Walt. Yes, I hear it. It sounds just like static. June.
He holds the receiver out to June for a second. She listens, mystified.
Hello. Thanks, old man, and a very Merry Christmas to you. Tell me, any news in Hollywood? Who's in Lana Turner's sweater these days? Well, tell him to get out. Goodbye. Do you know who that was you listened to? The voice of Donald Duck.
Not really.
Mr. Disney calls me every Christmas, no matter where I am. 2 years ago, I was walking on the bottom of the ocean in a diving suit with William Beebe, but he got me. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. June. I like your young man. I have an unerring instinct about people. I've never been wrong. That's why I wanted to meet him. My feeling is that you two will be very happy together. Whatever his beliefs are, he's entitled to them, and you shouldn't let anything stand in your way. As I see it, it's no problem at all. Stripped of its externals, what does it come down to? Your father. The possibility of making him unhappy. Is that right?
Very unhappy.
That isn't the point. Suppose your parents are unhappy. It's good for them. Develops their characters. Look at me. I left home at the age of 4 and haven't been back since. They hear me on the radio, and that's good enough for them.
Then your advice is to go ahead, Mr. Whiteside?
It is. Marry him tonight, June.
You mean that, Mr. Whiteside?
No, I mean you should marry Hamilton Fish. If I didn't mean it, I wouldn't say it. What do you want me to do? Say it all over again? My own opinion is...
Come on, Daisy, stop dawdling.
June quickly pushes her young man out of the room as Mr. and Mrs. Stanley descend the stairs.
Forgive us for trespassing, Mr. Whiteside.
Not at all, old fellow, not at all. It's Christmas, you know. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
June, we're taking some presents over to the Dexters.
Oh, no, thank you, Mother. I have to write some letters.
Come along, Daisy.
Stanley has been donning his coat. Turning, he reveals a great patch of court plaster on his head.
Why, Mr. Stanley, what happened to your forehead? Did you get in an accident?
No, Mr. Whiteside, I'm taking boxing lessons. Come, Daisy.
They go. Harriet, hovering at the head of the stairs, hurries down at the Stanleys to part. She is carrying a little Christmas package.
Dear Mr. Whiteside, I've been trying all day to see you, to give you this.
Why, Miss Stanley, a Christmas gift for me.
Well, it's only a trifle, but I wanted you to have it. It's a picture of me, as I used to be. It was taken on another Christmas Eve many years ago. Don't open it until midnight, at the stroke of midnight, will you?
The doorbell rings.
Oh, Merry Christmas, dear Mr. Whiteside. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Miss Stanley, and thank you.
She glides out of the room. In the hallway, as John opens the door.
This is the Stanley residence, isn't it? Well, I've come to see Mr. Whiteside. Will you tell him Miss Sheldon is here?
Lorraine, my blossom girl!
Oh, Sherry, my sweet.
Lorraine Sheldon is known as the most chic actress on the New York or London stage, and justly so. She glitters as she walks. She is beautiful and even, God save the word, glamorous. Her rank as one of the 10 best-dressed women of the world is richly deserved. She is, in short, a siren of no mean talents, and knows it.
Oh, darling, look at that poor, sweet, tortured face. Let me kiss it, you poor darling. Your eyes have a kind of gallant compassion. How drawn you are. Sherry, my sweet, I want to cry.
All right, all right. You've made a very nice entrance. Now relax, dear.
But Sherry, darling, I've been so worried, and now seeing you in that chair.
Oh, this chair fits my fanny as nothing else ever has. I feel better than I have in years, and my only concern is news of the outside world. So take that skunk off and tell me everything. How are you, my dear?
Darling, I'm so relieved. You look perfectly wonderful. I've never saw you look better, my dear. Do I look a wreck? I just dashed through New York. Didn't do a thing about Christmas. Hattie Carnegie and had my hair done and got right on the train. And then Normandy coming back was simply hectic. Fun, you know, but simply exhausting. Jock Whitney and Cary Grant and Dorothy DeFrazzo. It was just too exhausting. And of course, London before that was so magnificent, my dear. Well, I simply never got to bed at all. Darling, I have so much to tell you. I simply don't know where to begin.
Well, start with the dirt first, dear. That's what I want to hear.
Well, let me see. Well, Sybil Cartwright got thrown right out of Ciro's. It was the night before I sailed. She was wearing one of those new cellophane dresses, and you could absolutely see Trafalgar Square. And oh yes, Sir Harry Montrose, the painter, you know, is suing his mother for disorderly conduct. It's just shocked everyone. Oh, and before I forget, Beatrice Lilly gave me a message for you. She says for you to take off 25 pounds right away and send them to her by parcel post. She needs them.
Nonsense. Now come, dear. What about you? What about your love life? I don't believe for one moment that you never got to bed at all, if you pardon the expression.
Sherry, dear, you're dreadful.
What about that splendid bit of English mutton, Lord Bottomley? Haven't you hooked him yet?
Oh, well, Sherry, please. Cedric is a very dear friend of mine.
Now, Blossom girl, this is Sherry. Don't try to pull the bedclothes over my eyes. Don't tell me you wouldn't like to be Lady Bottomley with 100,000 pounds a year and 12 castles. By the way, has he had his teeth fixed yet? Every time I order Roquefort cheese, I think of those teeth.
Sherry, really? Oh, Cedric may not be brilliant, but he's rather sweet, poor lamb. And he's very fond of me. And he does represent a kind of English way of living that I like. Surrey and London for all the season, shooting box in Scotland, and that lovely old castle in Wales. Well, you were there, Sherry. You know what I mean.
I do indeed.
Well, really, Sherry, why not? If I can marry Cedric, I don't know why I shouldn't. Shall I tell you something, Sherry? I think from something he said just before I sailed that he's finally coming around to it. It wasn't definite, mind you, but don't be surprised if I am Lady Bottomley before very long.
Lady Bottomley, won't Kansas City be surprised? However, I shall be a flower girl and give the groom an iron toothpick as a wedding present. Come ahead, my Blossom, let's hear some more of your skullduggery.
The library doors are quietly opened at this point, and the doctor's head appears.
Mr. Whiteside.
What? No, not now. I'm busy.
The doctor disappears.
Who's that?
He's fixing the plumbing. Now, come on. I want more news.
But Sherry, what about this play? After all, I've come all the way from New York, even on Christmas Eve. I've been so excited ever since your phone call. Where is it? When can I read it?
Well, here's the situation. This young author, his name is Bert Jefferson, brought me the play with the understanding that I send it to Kit Cornell. It's a magnificent part. And God knows I feel disloyal to Kit, but there you are. Now I've done this much. The rest is up to you. He's young and attractive. Now, just how you'll go about persuading him, I'm sure you know more about that than I do.
Darling, how can I ever thank you? Does he know I'm coming? Mr. Jefferson, I mean.
No, you're just out here visiting me. You'll meet him and that's that. Get him to I'll take you to dinner and work around to the play. Good God, I don't have to tell you how to do those things. How did you get all those other parts?
Sherry? Well, I'll go back to the hotel and get into something more attractive. I just dumped my bags and rushed right over here. Darling, you're wonderful.
All right, run along and get into your working clothes, then come back right back here and spend Christmas Eve with Sherry, and I'll have Mr. Jefferson on tap. By the way, I've got a little surprise for you. Who do you think is paying me a flying visit tonight? None other than your old friend and fellow actor, Beverly Carlton.
Really? Beverly? I thought he was being glamorous again on the tramp steamer.
Oh, come, dear. You mustn't be bitter because he got better notices than you did.
Don't be silly, Sherry. I never read notices. I simply wouldn't care to act with him again, that's all. He's not staying here, is he? I hope not.
Temper. No, he's not. Where'd you get that diamond clip, dear? That's a new bit of loot, isn't it?
Oh, haven't you seen this before? Cedric gave it to me for his mother's birthday. Look, darling, I've got to get a taxi outside. But if I'm going to get back here...
Sherry, what do you think? I've just been giving the most beautiful...
She stops short and comes to a dead halt as she sees Lorraine.
Oh, hello, Maggie. I knew you must be around here somewhere. How are you, my dear?
Santa's been at work, my pet. Blossom Girl just dropped in out of the blue and surprised me.
Hello, Lorraine.
Who's that, Bert? This is Mr. Bert Jefferson, Lorraine, young newspaper man. Miss Lorraine Sheldon.
How do you do, Miss Sheldon?
How do you do? I didn't catch the name. Jefferson?
That's right, pet.
Why, Mr. Jefferson, you don't look like a newspaper man. You don't look like a newspaper man at all.
Really? I thought it was written all over me in neon lights.
Oh, no, not at all. I should have said you were, I don't know, an aviator or an explorer or something. They have that same kind of dash about them. I'm simply enchanted with your town, Mr. Jefferson. It gives one such a warm, gracious feeling. Tell me, have you lived here all your life?
Practically.
If you wish to hear the story of his life, Lorraine, kindly do so on your own time. Maggie and I have work to do. Get out of here, Jefferson. On your way, Blossom.
He's the world's rudest man, isn't he? Can I drop you, Mr. Jefferson? I'm going down to the mansion house, I think it's called.
No, thank you, but I've got my own car. Suppose I drop you.
Oh, would you? Well, that'd be lovely. We'll send the taxi off. See you in a while, Sherry. Bye, Maggie.
Goodbye, Miss C. I'm invited back for dinner, am I not?
Yes, you are. At Christmas, I always feed the needy. Now, please stop oozing out. Get out.
Come, Mr. Jefferson. I want to hear about this charming little town, and I want to know a good deal about you, too.
And they are gone.
Now, let's see. Have you got a copy of that broadcast? How much did you say they wanted out? 4 minutes?
That's right, 4 minutes. She's looking very well, isn't she?
What's that? Who?
The Countess de Pushover. Quite a surprise, wasn't it, her just dropping in?
Yes, it was. Now, come on, Maggie, come on. Get to work.
Why, she must have gone through New York like a dose of salts. How long is she going to stay?
What? Oh, I don't know, a few days. At this joyous season of the year when in the hearts of men... I can't cut that.
Isn't it curious? There was Lorraine, snug as a bug in somebody's bed on the Normandy when...
The Yuletide season pass.
Taking the manuscript out of his hands.
Now, Sherry dear, we will talk a bit.
Now look here, Maggie, just because a friend of mine happens to come out to spend Christmas with me...
Doorbell rings.
Oh, I have a hunch that's Beverly. Maggie, see if it is. Go ahead, run!
Maggie looks at him, right through him, in fact. Then she goes slowly toward the door.
Beverly!
Magpie, a large, moist, incestuous kiss for my magpie.
Come in here, you Piccadilly pen pusher, and gaze upon my soul in agony.
Beverly Carlton enters, arm in arm with Maggie, very confident, very British, very Beverly Carlton.
Don't tell me how you are, Sherry dear. I want none of the tiresome details. I have only a little time, so the conversation will be entirely about me, and I shall love it. Shall I tell you how I glittered through the South Seas like a silver scimitar, or would you rather hear how I frolicked through Zambezia, ravishing the Major General's daughter and finishing a 3-act play at the same time? Magpie dear, you are the moonflower of my middle age, and I love you very much. Say something beautiful to me. Shirley dear, without going into mountainous waves of self-pity, how are you?
I'm fine, you presumptuous Cockney. Now, how was the trip? Wonderful?
Fabulous. I did a fantastic amount of work. By the way, did I glimpse that little boudoir butterfly, Le Sheldon, in a motor car as I came up the driveway?
You did indeed. She's paying us a Christmas visit.
Dear girl, they do say she set fire to her mother, but I don't believe it. Sherry, my evil one, not only have I written the finest comedy since Moliere, but also the best review since my last one, and an operetta that frightens me. It's so good. I shall play it for 8 weeks in London and 6 in New York. That's all, no matinees. Then I am off to the Grecian islands. Magpie, why don't you come along? Why don't you desert this cannonball of fluff and come with me?
Beverly, dear, be careful. You're catching me at a good moment.
Tell me, did you have a good time in Hollywood? How long were you there?
3 unbelievable days. I saw everyone from Adrian to Zanuck. They came, poor dears, as if to a shrine. I was insufferably charming and ruthlessly firm in refusing $7 million for 2 minutes' work.
What about Banjo? Did you see my wonderful Banjo in Hollywood?
I did. He gave a dinner for me. I arrived in white tie and tails to be met at the door by 2 bewigged flunkies who quietly proceeded to take my trousers off. I was then ushered in my lemon silk drawers into a room full of Norma Shearer, Claudette Colbert, and Aldous Huxley, among others. Their sweet, incomparable Banjo.
Oh, I'll never forget that summer at Antibes when Banjo put a microphone in Lorraine's mattress and then played the record the next day at lunch.
I remember it indeed. Lorraine left Antibes by the next boat.
I wish Banjo were here now.
What's the matter, Magpie? Is Lorraine being her own sweet, sick-making self?
You wouldn't take her to the Grecian islands with you, would you, Beverly, just for me?
Now, Lorraine is a charming person who has gallantly given up her own Christmas to spend it with me.
Oh, I knew I had a bit of dirt for all of us to nibble on.
He draws a letter out of his pocket. Again, the library doors are open and the doctor's head comes through.
Mr. Whiteside?
Not now. Go away.
The doctor withdraws.
Have you kidnapped someone, Sherry?
Yes, that was just Charlie Ross. Go ahead. Is this something juicy?
Juicy as a pomegranate. It is the latest report from London on the winter maneuvers of Miss Lorraine Sheldon against the left flank, in fact, all flanks of Lord Cedric Bottomley. Listen. Lorraine has just left us in a cloud of Chanel No. 5. Since September, in her relentless pursuit of his lordship, she has paused only to change girdles and check her oil. She has chased him, panting from castle to castle, till he finally took refuge for several weekends in the gentleman's lavatory, the House of Lords. Practically no one is betting on the Derby this year. We are all making book on Lorraine. She is sailing tomorrow on the Normandy, but would return on the Yankee Clipper if Bottomley so much as belches in her direction. Have you heard or met Lord Bottomley, Magpie dear? No. Very good shooting today, blast it. Only partridges, foie gras, and the Duke of Sutherland.
My God, that is Bottomley to the very bottom.
Ripping debate in the House today. Old Basil spoke for 3 hours, dropped dead at the end of it. Ripping.
You're making it up, Beverly. No one sounds like that.
It's so good, it's uncanny. Damn it, Beverly, why must you race right out of here? I never see enough of you, you ungrateful moppet.
Sherry, darling, I can only tell you that my love for you is so great that I changed trains at Chicago just to spend 10 minutes with you and wish you a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, my lad, my little magpie. And now, I have just time for one magnificent number to give you a taste of how brilliant the whole thing is. It's the second number in the review.
He strikes a chord on the piano, but before he can go further, the telephone rings.
Damn, get rid of them, Maggie.
Hello? Oh, hello, Bert. Oh, well, just a minute. Beverly, would you talk to a newspaper man for just 2 minutes? I kind of promised him.
Won't have time, Magpie, unless he's under the piano.
Oh, wait a minute. Would you see him at the station just for a minute before the train goes? Bert, go to the station and wait for him. He'll be there in a few minutes. Bye.
The stalls are impatient, Beverly. Let's have this second-rate masterpiece.
What am I to do? Oft in the nightfall, I think I might fall down from a perilous height. Deep in the heart of me, always a part of me, quivering, shivering light. Run, little lady, ere the shady shafts of time barb you with their winged desire, singe you with their sultry fire. Softly a fluid druid meets me, olden and golden, the dawn that greets me, cherishing, perishing, up to the stars I climb. What am I to do towards ending this madness, this sadness that's rending me through? The flowers of yesteryear are haunting me, taunting me, darling, for wanting you. What am I to say to warnings of sorrow when morning's tomorrow greets the dew? Will I see the cosmic writs shattered and scattered to bits? What not am I to do?
As he swings into the chorus for a second time, the doorbell rings and John is glimpsed as he goes to the door. It is a trio of radio men who appear in the doorway, their arms filled with equipment for Mr. Whiteside's broadcast.
Oh, come in, Westcott. Beverly, it's superb. The best thing you've ever written. It'll be played by every ragtag orchestra from Salem to Singapore.
Please let me say that. The airwaves. Well, I shan't have to hear it, thank God. I shall be on the train.
Come on, Whiteside, say goodbye. Westcott, he's still 4 minutes over. You'll have to chisel it out.
Maggie starts to wheel him into the library.
Stop this nonsense. Beverly, my lamb.
You can kiss Beverly in London on July 12th. The microphone setup is right there, gentlemen. You can connect up outside. John, show them where it is.
Maggie, what the hell are you? I will not be wheeled out of here like a baby who has to have his diapers changed.
Au revoir, Sherry. Merry Christmas. Magpie, come get a kiss.
Maggie emerging from the library and closing the doors behind her.
Beverly, I want 1 minute. I must have it. You'll make the train. The station's a minute and a half from here.
Why? What's the matter, Magpie?
At which the library doors are opened and the doctor emerges rather apologetically. He is sped on his way by Mr. Whiteside's roaring voice.
Oh, get out of here!
I'm just waiting in the kitchen until Mr. Whiteside is. Excuse me.
He darts out through the dining room.
Who is that man?
Never mind. Beverly, I'm in great trouble.
Why, Magpie dear? What's the matter?
I've fallen in love. For the first time in my life, Beverly, I'm in love. I can't tell you about it. There isn't time, but Sherry is trying to break it up. In his own fiendish way, he's doing everything he can to break it up.
Why, the old devil? What's he doing?
Lorraine. He's brought Lorraine here to smash it.
Oh, it's somebody here in this town.
He's a newspaper man, the one you're going to see at the station. And he's written a play, and I know Sherry must be using that as bait. You know, Lorraine, she'll eat him up alive. You've got to help me, Beverly.
Of course I will, Magpie. What do you want me to do?
I've got to get Lorraine out of here. The farther away, the better. And you can do it for me.
But how? How can I? I'm leaving.
The library doors are open and Westcott emerges.
Have you got a carbon copy of the broadcast, Miss Cutler?
It's on that table.
Thank you. One of the penguins ate the original.
Beverly, are you still out there?
No, he's gone, Sherry. Come out here.
Maneuvering him into the hall, we see her whisper to him. His head bobs up and down quickly in assent.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Maggie puts a quick finger to his lips.
It's simply enchanting. And bitches Sherry and Lorraine at the same time. It's pure heaven. I adore it, and I shall do it up proud.
He embraces her.
Darling, the first baby will be named Beverly. You're wonderful.
Of course I am. Come to Chiswick after your honeymoon, and I'll put you up. Goodbye, my lovely. I adore you.
And he is gone.
La 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 la, what am I to do? Tra la 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 la.
Entering from the dining room breaks the song.
Shall I straighten up the room for the broadcast, Miss Cutler?
No, John, it isn't television, thank God. They only hear that liquid voice.
Oh, he really is wonderful, isn't he? The things he finds time to do.
Yes, he certainly sticks his nose into everything, John.
She goes into the library. John is putting the room in order when suddenly June comes quietly down the stairs. She is dressed for the street and is carrying a suitcase.
Why, Miss June, are you going away?
Why, no, John. No, I'm just... Mr. Whiteside's inside, I suppose?
Yes, he's getting ready to go on the radio.
Oh, well, look, John,
Richard darts down the stairs, a light bag, 2 cameras slung over his shoulder.
Here's Mr. Whiteside in there.
Yes, he is.
Oh, well, maybe we ought to...
The doorbell rings. Richard and June exchange looks, then scurry out quickly through the dining room. John looks after them, puzzled, then goes to the door. Lorraine, who comes in resplendent now in evening dress and wraps straight from Paris. At the same time, Maggie emerges from the library and John goes on his way.
Hello, dear. Where's Sherry?
Inside, working. He's broadcasting very soon.
Oh, of course. Christmas Eve. What a wonderful man Sheridan Whiteside is. You know, my dear, it must be such an utter joy to be secretary to somebody like Sherry.
Yes, you meet such interesting people. That's quite a gown, Lorraine. Going anywhere?
Oh, this? Oh, I just throw on anything at all. Aren't you dressing for dinner?
No, just what meets the eye.
Who does your hair, Maggie?
A little French woman named Maggie Cutler comes in every morning.
You know, every time I see you, I keep thinking your hair could be so lovely. I always just want to get my hands on it.
I've always wanted to get mine on yours, Lorraine.
What?
One of the radio men drifts into the room, plugs into the control board, drifts out again.
So, by the way, what time does Beverly get here? I'm not overly anxious to meet him.
Oh, he's been and gone, Lorraine.
Really? Well, I'm very glad. Of course, you're great friends with him, aren't you? You and Beverly.
Yes, we are. I think he's a wonderful person.
Oh, I suppose so. But when I finished acting with him, I was a perfect wreck. All during that tender love scene the critics thought was so magnificent. He kept dropping peanut shells down my dress. I wouldn't act with him again if I was starving.
Tell me, Lorraine, have you found a new play yet?
No, I haven't. There are tons of scripts waiting for me in New York, but I hurried right out here to Sherry.
Yes, it was wonderful of you, Lorraine, to drop everything that way and rush to Sherry's wheelchair.
Well, after all, Maggie dear, what else has one in this world but friends? How long will Sherry be in there, I wonder?
Oh, not long. Did you know that Mr. Jefferson has written quite a good play? The young man who drove you to the hotel.
Really? No, I didn't. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, isn't it?
Mhm. They've put a polish on my nails that I simply abhor. I don't suppose Elizabeth Arden has a branch in this town.
Not if she has any sense.
Oh well, I'll just bear it, though it does depress me.
She rises, wanders aimlessly for a moment, picking up a book from the table.
Oh, have you read this, Maggie? Everybody was reading it on the boat. I hear you simply can't put it down.
I put it down right there.
Lorraine casually strikes a note or two on the piano. The telephone rings.
Hello? Yes? Yes. Miss Lorraine Sheldon? Yes, she's here. There's a transatlantic call coming through for you, Lorraine.
Transatlantic? For me? What? Why, what in the world? Here?
It's London.
London? Hello? Hello? Cedric! Cedric, is that you? Oh, my Cedric! You darling, what a surprise! How did you know I was here? Oh, darling, don't talk so fast. You won't stutter so. Yes, that's better. Yes, now I can hear you. Yes, very clearly. It's as though you were just around the corner. I see. What? Darling, no. Oh, Cedric, dearest, would you wait for just one moment? Maggie, would you mind? It's Lord Bottomley, a very personal call. Would you mind?
Oh, not at all.
She goes into the dining room almost as a little waltz step and is gone.
Yes, my dearest. Now, tell me. Cedric, please don't stutter so. Don't be nervous. Oh, my darling. Oh, my sweet. Oh, you don't know how I've prayed for this. Oh, God. Yes, every night I prayed on the boat, darling. Yes. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes. I'll take a plane right out of here and catch the next boat. Oh, my sweet. We are going to be the happiest people in the world. Oh, I wish I were there right now in your arms, Cedric. What? Cedric, don't stutter so. Oh, yes, my dear, my sweet. Yes, my darling, I will. Oh, I will. I will think of it. I will think of you every moment. You have made me the happiest girl in the world. Oh, goodbye. Goodbye, darling. Goodbye.
Oh! Open the library doors.
Sherry! Sherry! Oh, my gosh. Do you know what's just happened? Cedric just called from London. He's asked me to marry him. Sherry, think of it. At last! I've got to get right out of here and catch the next boat. How far are we from Chicago? I can get a plane from there.
Emerging, mouse from the dining room.
May I come in?
Maggie, oh yes, Maggie dear, can I get a plane out of here right away? Or I'll even take a train to Chicago and fly from there. I've simply got to get the next boat for England. What is it? Do you know? Is there a newspaper around here?
Well, the Queen Mary sails Friday. Why? What's all the excitement, Lorraine? What's happened?
Oh, Maggie, the most wonderful thing in the world has happened. Lord Bottomley has just asked me to marry him. Oh, Maggie. Oh.
Throws her arms around her.
Really? Well, what do you know?
Oh, isn't it wonderful? I'm so excited I could hardly think. Oh, Maggie dear, you must help me get out of here.
I'd be delighted to, Lorraine.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, will you look these things up right away?
Yes, I've got a timetable right here. And don't worry, because if there's no train, I will drive you to Toledo and you can catch the plane from there.
Oh, Maggie, darling, you are wonderful. Oh, Sherry, what's the matter with you? You haven't congratulated me at all.
Let me understand this, Lorraine. Am I to gather from your girlish squeals that you are about to toss your career into the ash can?
Oh, not at all. I mean, of course, I might not be able to play this season, but there'll be other seasons, Sherry.
I see. And everything goes into the ash can with it. Is that right?
But Sherry, I mean, obviously you couldn't expect me to just...
Don't explain, Lorraine. I understand only too well. And I also understand why Cornell remains the first actress of our theater.
Oh, this is wonderful. We're in luck, Lorraine. You can get a plane out of Toledo at 10:03. It takes about an hour to get there. Oh, why, it all works out wonderfully. Doesn't it, Sherry?
Peachy.
Maggie, what's the number of the hotel I'm at? I've got to get my maid started packing.
Massalia 32.
Massalia 32, please. Let's see, I sail Friday, 5-day boat. That means I ought to be in London Wednesday night. Hello, this is Miss Sheldon. Yes, that's right. Well, yes. Connect me with my maid.
Oh, look, Sherry, it's starting to snow. Oh, isn't that wonderful, Sherry? I don't think I've ever felt more like Christmas in my life. Don't you, Sherry, dear?
Shut your nasty little face.
Cosette! Oh, now listen carefully, Cosette. Have you got a pencil? We're leaving here tonight by plane and sailing Friday on the Queen Mary. Start packing immediately and I'll call you in about an hour. Yes, that's right. Now, I want you to send these cables for me. Okay, ready? The first one goes to Lord and Lady Cunard. Now, you'll find all these addresses in my little book. It's in my dressing case. Lord and Lady Cunard, my darlings, returning Friday, Queen Mary. Cedric and I are being married immediately on arrival. Wanted you to be the first to know. Love, Lorraine. Now, send the same message. What? Oh, thank you, Cosette. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, send the same message to Lady Astor, Lord Beaverbrook, and my mother in Kansas City. Got that? And send a wire to Hattie Carnegie, New York. Please meet me, Sherry, Netherland, noon tomorrow with sketches of bridal gown and trousseau. Lorraine Sheldon. And then send a cable to Monsieur Pierre Cartier, Cartier's London. Can you hold in reserve for me the triple string of pearls I picked out in October? Cable me, Queen Mary, Lorraine Sheldon. Have you got all that straight, Cosette? Yes, that's fine. Now, you'll have to rush, my dear. I'll be at the hotel in about an hour, so be ready. Goodbye. Oh, thank goodness for Cosette. I die without her. She's just the most wonderful maid in the world. Well, oh, gosh, life is full of surprises, isn't it? Well, who'd have thought an hour ago I'd be on my way to London?
An hour ago? No, I certainly wouldn't have thought it an hour ago.
Will you both stop this female drooling? I have a violent headache.
Oh, Sherry, can I get you something?
Look here, Sherry, I'm sorry if I've offended you, but after all, my life is my own, and I'm not going to just...
Well, hello, everybody. Say, do you know it's snowing out? I'm gonna have a real old-fashioned Christmas.
Why don't you telephone your scoop to the New York Times?
Bert, Miss Sheldon has to catch a plane tonight from Toledo. Can we drive her over, you and I?
Why, certainly. Well, sorry you have to go, Miss Sheldon. No bad news, I hope.
Oh, on the contrary, very good news. Wonderful news.
Yes, indeed. Calls for a drink, I think. You're not being a very good host, Sherry. How about a bottle of champagne?
Oh, I can do better than that. Let me mix you something. It's a Jefferson special. Okay, Mr. Whiteside?
Yes. Mix anything, only stop dribbling.
On his way to the dining room.
Anybody admired my Christmas present yet, Maggie?
Oh, dear, I forgot.
She raises her arm, revealing a bracelet.
Look, everybody, from Mr. Jefferson to me.
Oh, it's charming. Let me see it. Oh, why, it's inscribed to Maggie. Long may she wave, Bert. Maggie, it's a lovely Christmas present. Isn't it sweet, Sherry?
Ducky.
I told you it was beautiful, Bert. See?
Well, shows what you get if you save your coupons.
Well, what's going on between you two anyhow? Maggie, are you hiding something from us?
Great God, will this drivel never stop? My head is bursting.
A Jefferson special will cure anything. By the way, I got a 2-minute interview with Beverly Carlton at the station. You were right, Mr. Whiteside. He's quite something.
Go ahead, Bert, mix the drinks.
I was lucky to even get 2 minutes. He was in a telephone booth most of the time. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but from the faces he was making, it looked like a scene from one of his plays.
Bert, mix those drinks, will you?
A minute. If you please, Mr. Jefferson. Mr. Carlton was in a telephone booth at the station.
Certainly was. I thought he'd never come out. Kept talking and making the damnedest faces for about 5 minutes.
Bert, for goodness sake, will you just mix those drinks?
Oh, Bert, my boy, I have an idea. Shall love a Jefferson special. Make me a double one, will you? My headache is gone with the wind.
Okay.
He goes. Whiteside immediately whirls his wheelchair across the room to the telephone.
Shh. Philo Vance is now at work.
What?
Shh. Operator, has there been a call from England over this telephone within the past half hour? Yes, I'll wait.
Sherry, what is this?
What's that? There have been no calls from England for the past 3 days. Thank you. Now, will you repeat that, please? Blossom girl.
He beckons to Lorraine, then puts the receiver to her ear.
Hear it, dear? Thank you, and a Merry Christmas. Yes, indeed, it seems we're going to have a real old-fashioned Christmas.
Sherry, what is all this? What's going on? What does this mean?
My dear, you have just played the greatest love scene of your career with your old friend, Beverly Carlton.
That's not true. I was talking to Cedric. What do you mean?
I mean, my blossom, that was Beverly you poured out your girlish heart to, not Lord Bottomley. Me, who'd have thought 5 minutes ago that you would not be going to London?
Sherry, stop it. What is this? I want this explained.
Explained? You heard the operator, my dear. All I can tell you is that Beverly was indulging in one of his famous bits of mimicry, that's all. You've heard him do Lord Bottomley before, haven't you?
Yes, of course, but why would he want to do such a thing? I mean, this is one of the most dreadful. Oh my God, those cables!
In one bound, she is at the telephone.
Give me the hotel, whatever it's called. I want the hotel. I will pay him off for this if it's the last thing Why, the cat. The absolute unutterable cat! The dirty, rotten mansion house. Yes, connect me with my maid. What? What the hell do you think it is? Miss Sheldon, of course. Oh, God, those cables. Oh, if Cosette hasn't... Cosette! Did you send those cables? Oh, God. Oh, my God! No! Now listen, Cosette. I want you to send another cable to every one of those people and tell them somebody has been using my name and to disregard anything and everything they hear from me, except this, of course. Don't ask questions. Do as you're told. Don't argue with me, you French bitch. God damn it. Do as you're told and unpack. We're not going.
Now, steady, my blossom. Take it easy.
You mean take it easy? Do you realize I'll be the laughing stock of England? Why, I won't dare show my face. I always knew Beverly Carlton was low, but not this low. I mean, why? It isn't even funny. Why would he do it? Why would anybody in the world want to play a trick like this? I can't understand it. Do you, Sherry? I mean, do you, Maggie? I mean, you both saw him this afternoon. Why would he walk out of here, go right to a phone booth, and try to ship me off to England on a fool's errand? There must have been some reason. There must have been. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. Why would Beverly Carlton or anybody else, for that matter, want me to? Oh.
Her eye, which has been on Maggie, goes momentarily to the dining room where Bert has disappeared. Then her gaze returns to Maggie again.
I think I begin to. Of course. Of course. That's it. Of course, that's it. Yes. And that's a very charming bracelet that Mr. Jefferson gave you. Isn't it, Maggie dear? Of course. Well, it makes complete sense now. And to think that I nearly, well, wild horses couldn't get me out of here now, Maggie. And if I were you, I'd hang on to that bracelet, dear. It'll be something to remember him by.
Out of the library comes Mr. Westcott, his hands full of papers. At the same time, the two technicians emerge from the dining room and go to the control board.
All right, Mr. Whiteside, almost time. Here's your new copy. Hook her up. Boys, start testing.
How much time?
Couple minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. How are we coming in, New York? A, B, C, D, A, B, C. Mary had a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb.
Mr. and Mrs. Stanley, having delivered their Christmas presents, enter from the hallway and start up the stairs.
Come along, Daisy.
At the radio goings on, but Mr. Stanley delivers a stern "Come, Daisy," and she follows him down the stairs.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, New York, waiting.
From the dining room comes Bert Jefferson, a tray of drinks in his hand.
Here comes the Jefferson special. Oh, have we time?
Oh, I'm sure we have, Mr. Jefferson. I'm not leaving after all. My plans are changed.
Really? Oh, that's good.
And I hear you have written a simply marvelous play, Mr. Jefferson. I want you to read it to me tonight, will you? We'll go back to the mansion house right after dinner and you'll read me your play.
Why, I should say so. I'd be delighted. Maggie, did you hear that? Say, I'll bet you did this. You arranged the whole thing. Well, it's the finest Christmas present you could have given me.
Maggie looks at him for one moment, then dashes into the hall, grabs her coat, and flings herself out of the house. Bert stands looking after her. Mr. and Mrs. Stanley come pell-mell down the stairs. Each clutches a letter, and they are wild-eyed.
Mr. Whiteside, my son has run off on a freighter and my daughter is marrying an anarchist. They say you told them to do it.
Oh, my poor June! My poor Richard! Oh, this is the most awful.
Quiet, please. We're going on the air.
How dare you? This is the most outrageous.
Please, quiet. We're going on the air.
In this moment of stillness, Dr. Bradley emerges from the dining room.
Oh, I see you're still busy.
Mr. Whiteside, you are the most...
For God's sake, quiet! Quiet. All right, night, boys.
From the hallway come 6 choir boys dressed in their robes. They take their places by the microphone as the voice of the technician completes the hookup.
Okay, New York.
He raises his arm, waiting to give the signal. Westcott is watching him. John and Sarah are on tiptoe in the dining room. Then the arm drops.
Good evening, everybody. Cream of Mush brings you Sheridan Whiteside.
The leader gestures to the choir boys, and they raise their lovely voices in silent night. Another gesture from Westcott, and Whiteside begins to speak with the boys singing as a background.
This is Whiteside speaking. On this eve of eves, when my own heart is overflowing with peace and kindness, I think it is most fitting to tell once again the story of that still and lustrous night, nigh unto 2,000 years ago.
Shh! Quiet.
When first the star of Bethlehem was glimpsed in a wondrous sky.
Famous voice goes out over the air to the listening millions as the curtain falls. Act 3. Christmas morning. The bright December sunlight streams in through the window, but the Christmas calm is quickly broken. From the library comes the roaring voice of Mr. Whiteside.
Miss Preen! Miss Preen!
Miss Preen, who is just coming through the dining room, rushes to open the library doors.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Whiteside rolls himself into the room.
Where do you disappear to all the time, my lady Nausea?
Mr. Whiteside, I can only be in one place at a time.
That is very fortunate for this community.
Miss Preen goes into the library and slams the doors after her. John emerges from the dining room.
Good morning, Mr. Whiteside. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, John. Merry Christmas.
And Sarah and I want to thank you for the wonderful present.
That's quite all right, John.
Are you ready for your breakfast, Mr. Whiteside?
No, I don't think I want any breakfast. Has Miss Cutler come down yet?
No, sir, not yet.
Is she in her room? Do you know?
Yes, sir, I think she is. Shall I call her?
No, that's all, John.
Yes, sir.
Maggie comes down the stairs. She wears a traveling suit and carries a bag. Whiteside waits for her to speak.
I'm taking the 1 o'clock train, Sherry. I'm leaving.
You're doing nothing of the kind.
Here are your keys, your driving license. The key to the safe deposit vault is in the apartment in New York. I'll go in here now and clear things up.
He opens the library doors.
Just a minute, Mrs. Siddons. Where were you until 3 o'clock this morning? I sat up half the night in this station wagon worrying about you. You heard me calling to you when you came in. Why didn't you answer me?
Look, Sherry, it's over. And you've won. I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, come. What are you trying to do? Make me feel like a naughty boy? Honestly, Maggie, sometimes you can be very annoying.
You know, you're quite wonderful, Sherry. In a way, you're annoyed. I wish there was a laugh left in me. Shall I tell you something, Sherry? I think you are a selfish, petty egomaniac who would see his mother burned at the stake if that was the only way he could light his cigarette. I think you'd sacrifice your best friend without a moment's hesitation if he disturbed the sacred routine of your self-centered, paltry little life. I think you are incapable of any human emotion that goes higher up than your stomach, and I was the fool of the world for ever thinking I could trust you.
Well, as long as I live, I shall never do anyone a good turn again. I won't ask you to apologize, Maggie, but 6 months from now, you will be thanking me instead of berating me.
In 6 months, Sherry, I expect to be so far away from you.
He is halted by a loud voice from the hallway as the door bangs.
Hello.
Bert Jefferson enters, full of Christmas cheer.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. I'm a little high, but I can explain everything. Hi, Maggie. Hi, Mr. Whiteside. Shake hands with a successful playwright. Maggie, why you went away last night? Where were you? Miss Sheldon thinks the play is wonderful. I read her the play, and she thinks it's wonderful. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, that's fine, Bert.
Isn't that wonderful, Mr. Whiteside?
Jefferson, I think you ought to go home, don't you?
What? No! Biggest day of my life. I know I'm a little drunk, but this is a big day. We've been sitting over at Billy's Tavern all night. Never realized it was daylight until it was daylight. Listen, Maggie, Miss Sheldon says the play needs just a little bit of fixing. Do it in 3 weeks. She's going to take me to a little place she's got in Lake Placid just for 3 weeks, going to work on the play together. Isn't it wonderful? Why don't you say something, Maggie?
Look, Bert, I suggest you tell us all about this later. Now, why don't you?
Dr. Bradley enters from the hallway.
Oh, excuse me. Merry Christmas, everybody.
God bless us all and Tiny Tim.
Yes, Mr. Whiteside, I thought perhaps if I came early that we...
You know what, Doc? I'm going to Lake Placid for 3 weeks. Isn't that wonderful? Ever hear of Lorraine Sheldon, the famous actress? Well, we're going to Lake Placid for 3 weeks.
Dr. Bradley, would you do me a favor? I think Mr. Jefferson would like some black coffee and a little breakfast. Would you take care of him, please?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Dr. Bradley, I'm going to buy breakfast for you. Biggest breakfast you ever had.
Yes. Come along, Jefferson.
You know what, Doctor? Let's climb down a couple of chimneys. I got a friend doesn't believe in Santa Claus. Let's climb down his chimney and frighten the hell out of him.
Goes out with the doctor.
Now listen to me, Maggie. I am willing to forgive your tawdry outburst and talk about this calmly.
I love him so terribly. Sherry, why did you do it? Why did you do it?
She goes into the library. Harriet comes down the steps, dressed for the street.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Whiteside.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Miss Stanley.
I'm afraid I should be seen talking to you, Mr. Whiteside. My brother is terribly angry, but I just couldn't resist asking. Did you like my Christmas present?
I'm very sorry, Miss Stanley. I haven't opened it. I haven't opened any of my presents yet.
Oh, dear. I was so anxious to... Oh, it's right here, Mr. Whiteside. Oh, won't you open it now?
I appreciate your thinking of me, Miss Stanley. This is very thoughtful of you.
She takes out the gift.
Why, it's lovely. I'm very fond of these old photographs. Thank you very much.
I was 22 when that was taken. That was my favorite dress. Do you really like it?
I do, indeed. When I get back to town, I shall send you a little gift.
Will you? Oh, thank you, Mr. Whiteside. I shall treasure it. Well, I shall be late for church. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Miss Stanley.
As she goes out the front door, Whiteside's eyes return to the gift. John comes from the dining room en route to the second floor with Mrs. Stanley's tray.
Sarah's got a little surprise for you, Mr. Whiteside. She's taking it out of the oven.
Thank you, John.
John disappears up the stairs. There's a great ringing of the doorbell. It stops for a second, then picks up violently again, rhythmically this time. It continues until the door is opened.
Miss Preen! Miss Preen!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now answer the door, will you? John is upstairs.
Who is it?
Oh!
The Adlers!
For Miss Preen, and in a moment we see the reason why. She is carried into the room in the arms of a pixie-like gentleman who is kissing her over and over.
Put me down! Put me down!
I love you madly. Madly, did you hear what I said? Madly.
Who are
Again,
you?
Don't be afraid of my passion.
Mr. Whiteside!
I can feel the hot blood pounding through your varicose veins.
Banjo, for God's sake.
Hello, Whiteside. Will you sign for this package, please?
Banjo, put that woman down. That is my nurse, you mental delinquent.
On her face.
Come to my room in half an hour and bring some rye bread.
And for good measure, he slaps Miss Preen right on the fanny.
Really, Mr. Whiteside?
He adjusts her clothes with a quick jerk or two and marches into the library.
Whiteside, I'm here to spend Christmas with you. Give me a kiss.
Oh, get away from me, you reform school fugitive. How did you get here anyway?
Oh, Daryl Zanuck loaned me his reindeer. Whiteside, we finished the picture yesterday, and I'm on my way to Nova Scotia. Flew here in 12 hours, borrowed an airplane from Howard Hughes. Whiteside, I brought you a wonderful Christmas present. This brassiere was once worn by Hedy Lamarr.
Listen, you idiot. How long can you stay?
Oh, just long enough to take a bath. I'm on my way to Nova Scotia. Where's Maggie?
Nova Scotia? What are you going to Nova Scotia for?
I'm sick of Hollywood and there's a dame in New York I don't want to see. So I figured I'd go to Nova Scotia and get some good salmon. Where the hell's Maggie? I want to see her. What's the matter with you? Where is she?
Banjo, I'm glad you're here. I'm very annoyed at Maggie. Very.
What's the matter?
Whiteside gets up out of his chair and starts to pace up and down the room.
Say, what is this? I thought you couldn't walk.
Oh, I've been all right for weeks. That isn't the point. I'm furious at Maggie. She turned on me like a viper. You know how fond I am of her. Well, after all these years, she's repaying my affection by behaving like a fishwife.
What are you talking about?
But I never believed for a moment she was really in love with him.
In love with who? I just got here, remember?
Great God, I'm telling you, you Hollywood nitwit. A young newspaper man here in town.
Maggie finally fell. Well, what do you know? What kind of guy is he?
Oh, shut up and listen, will you?
Oh, well, go on. What happened?
Well, Lorraine Sheldon happened to come out here and visit me.
Old hot pants. Here.
Now, listen. He'd written a play, this young fellow. You can guess the rest. He's going away with Lorraine this afternoon to rewrite. So there you are. Maggie's in there now, crying her eyes out.
Gee. Say, wait a minute. What do you mean Lorraine Sheldon happened to come out here? I smell a rat, Sherry. A rat with a beard.
Well, all right. But I did it for Maggie because I thought it was the right thing to do.
Oh, sure. You haven't thought of yourself in years. Gee, poor kid. Can I go in and talk to her?
No, just leave her alone.
Oh, anyway, I could help Sherry. Oh, where's this guy live? This guy she likes? Can we get a hold of him?
Now, wait a minute, Banjo. We don't want any phony warrants or you pretending to be J. Edgar Hoover. I've been through all that with you before.
He paces again.
I got Lorraine here and I've got to get her away.
It's got to be good, Sherry. Lorraine's no dope. Now, there must be something that would get her out of here like a bat out of hell. Say, I think I've got it. That fellow she's so crazy over in England, Lord Fanny or whatever it was. Bottomley, that's it.
No, Banjo, no.
Well, wait a minute, you don't catch on. We send Lorraine a cablegram from Lord Bottomley.
I catch on, Banjo. Lorraine caught on too. It's been tried.
Oh, I told you she was no dope.
Seeing Whiteside's chair, he sits in it and leans back with a good deal of pleasure.
Oh, well, you've got a tough proposition on your hands.
The trouble is there's so damned little time. Get out of my chair.
Whiteside gets back into it.
Lorraine's taking him away this afternoon. Oh, damn. There must be some way out. The trouble is I've done this job too well. Hell and damnation.
Stock, huh?
In the words of one of our greatest lyric poets, you said it.
Yeah, Gee, I'm hungry. We'll think of something, Sherry. You watch. We'll get Lorraine out of here if I have to do it one piece at a time.
Sarah enters from the dining room bearing a tray on which reposes the culinary surprise that John has mentioned. She holds it behind her back.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Whiteside. Oh, excuse me. I've got something for you.
Banjo blandly lifts the latest delicacy and proceeds to eat it as Sarah presents the empty plate to Whiteside.
But Mr. Whiteside, it was for you.
Never mind, Sarah. He's quite mad.
Come, Petrushka. We will dance in the snow until all St. Petersburg is aflame with jealousy.
He clutches Sarah and waltzes her toward the kitchen loudly.
Mr. Whiteside!
Just give him some breakfast, Sarah. He's harmless.
The library doors are opened and Miss Preen emerges. It is Miss Preen in street clothes this time and with a suitcase in her hand. She plants herself squarely in front of Whiteside, puts down her bag, and starts drawing on a pair of gloves.
And just what does this mean?
It means, Mr. Whiteside, that I am leaving. My address is on the desk inside. You can send me a check.
You realize, Miss Preen, that this is completely unprofessional.
I do indeed. I'm not only walking out on this case, Mr. Whiteside, I am leaving the nursing profession. I became a nurse because all my life, ever since I was a little girl, I was filled with the idea of serving a suffering humanity. After 1 month with you, Mr. Whiteside, I am going to work in a munitions factory. From now on, anything that I can do to help exterminate the human race will give me the greatest of pleasure. If Florence Nightingale had nursed you, Mr. Whiteside, she would have married Jack the Ripper instead of founding the Red Cross. Good day.
And she sails out. Mrs. Stanley rushes down the stairs.
Stanley is here with June. He's brought June back. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. June, thank God you're back. You're not married, are you?
No, Mother, I'm not. And please don't be hysterical.
Mrs. Stanley comes into view, her arms around a rebellious June. Behind them looms Mr. Stanley, every inch the stern father.
Oh, June, if it had been anyone but that awful boy, you know how your father and I felt. Ernest, thank goodness you stopped it. How did you do it?
Never mind that, Daisy. Just take June upstairs. I have something to say to Mr. Whiteside.
What about Richard? Is there any news?
It's all right, Daisy, all under control. Just take June upstairs.
Father, haven't we had enough melodrama? I don't have to be taken upstairs. I'll go upstairs. Merry Christmas, Mr. Whiteside. It looks bad for John L. Lewis. Come on, Mother, lock me in my room.
Well, now, June, you feel much better after you've had a hot bath. I know. Have you had anything to eat?
She follows her daughter up the stairs.
I am pleased to inform you, sir, that your plans for my daughter seem to have gone a trifle awry. She is not, nor will she ever be, married to that labor agitator that you so kindly picked out for her. As for my son, he has been apprehended in Toledo and he will be brought back home within the hour. Not having your gift for invective, I cannot tell you what I think of your obnoxious interference into my affairs, but I have now arranged that you will interfere no longer.
He turns toward the hallway.
Come in, gentlemen.
2 burly men come into view and stand in the archway.
Mr. Whiteside, these gentlemen are deputy sheriffs. They have a warrant by which I am enabled to put you out of this house. And I need hardly add that it will be the greatest moment of my life, Mr. Whiteside. I'm giving you 15 minutes in which to pack up and get out. If you are not gone in 15 minutes, Mr. Whiteside, these gentlemen will forcibly remove you. Thank you, gentlemen. Will you wait outside, please?
The 2 men file out.
15 minutes, Mr. Whiteside. And that means bag, baggage, wheelchair, penguins, octopus, and cockroaches. I'm now going upstairs to smash your radio so that not even accidentally will I ever hear your voice again.
Sure you don't want my autograph, old fellow?
15 minutes, Mr. Whiteside.
And he goes. Banjo, still eating, returns from the kitchen.
Well, Whiteside, I didn't get an idea. Any news from the front?
Yes. The enemy is at my rear and nibbling.
Where did you say Maggie was? In there?
It's no use, Banjo. She's taking the 1 o'clock train out.
No kidding. You didn't tell me that. You mean she's quitting you after all these years? She's really leaving?
She is.
That means you've only got till 1 o'clock to do something.
No, dear, I have exactly 15 minutes. Haha. 14 minutes in which to pull out of my hat the goddamnedest rabbit you ever seen.
What do you mean 15 minutes?
In exactly 15 minutes, baby's rosy little body is being tossed out into the snow. My host has sworn out a warrant. I am being kicked out.
What? I've never heard of such a thing. What would he do a thing like that for?
Never mind. Never mind. The point is, I have only 15 minutes, Banjo dear. The master is growing a little desperate.
What about laying your cards on the table with Lorraine?
Now, Banjo, you know Dream Girl as well as I do. What do you think?
You're right. Say, if I knew where she was, I could get a car and run her over. It wouldn't hurt her much.
Banjo, for God's sake, go in and talk to Maggie for a minute. Right in there. I want to think.
Could we get a doctor to say Lorraine has smallpox?
Please, Banjo. I've got to think.
Opening the library doors.
Pardon me, miss. Is this the YMCA?
The doors close. We hear the outer door open and close. From the hallway comes Richard. Immediately behind him is a man with an air of authority.
Is this your father?
Richard says, "No, you idiot. Hello, Mr. Whiteside. I didn't get very far. Any suggestions?"
I'm very sorry, Richard. Very sorry indeed. I wish I were in a position.
Mr. Stanley says,
Well, we're not in a position. Thank you very much, officer. Here's a little something for your trouble.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Good day.
Will you go upstairs, please, Richard?
Richard hesitates for a second, looks at his father, then at Whiteside, silently goes up the steps. Mr. Stanley follows him, landing.
10 minutes, Mr. Whiteside.
John enters from the living room, bringing a glass of orange juice.
Here you are, Mr. Whiteside. Feeling any better?
Superb. Any cyanide in this orange juice, John?
The doorbell rings.
Open the door, John. It's probably some mustard gas from an old friend.
Yes, sir. Say, that crazy fellow made a great hit with Sarah. He wants to give her a screen test.
At the outer door, we hear Lorraine's voice.
Good morning. Is Mr. Whiteside up yet?
Yes, he is, Miss Sheldon. He's right here.
Oh, Merry Christmas, darling. Merry Christmas. I've come to have breakfast, Christmas breakfast with you, my dear. May I?
Of course, my sprite. John, a tray for Miss Sheldon. Better make it 1 minute eggs.
Sherry, it's the most perfect Christmas morning. The snow is absolutely glistening. Too bad you can't get out.
Oh, I'll probably see a bit of it. I hear you're off for Lake Placid, my blossom. What time are you going?
Oh, Sherry, how did you know? Is Bert here?
No, he rolled in a little while ago. Worked rather fast, didn't you, dear?
Darling, I was just swept off my feet by the play. It's fantastically good. Sherry, it's the kind of part that comes along once in 10 years. I'm so grateful to you, darling. Really, Sherry, sometimes I think you're the only friend I have in the world.
Thank you, dear. What time did you say you were leaving, you and Jefferson?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's 4 o'clock. You know, quite apart from anything else, Sherry, Bert is really a very attractive man. It makes it rather a pleasure squaring accounts with little Miss Vitrol. In fact, it's all worked out beautifully. Sherry Lamb, I want to give you the most beautiful Christmas present you've ever had in your life. Now, what do you want? Anything. I'm so deliriously happy that I could just...
Oh. Laugh comes from the library.
Ah, woo!
That sounds like Banjo. Is he here?
He is, my dear, just the family circle gathering at Christmas. My, how time flies when you're having fun.
Banjo emerges from the library.
Why, hello, sweetie pants. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And you, Banjo?
Oh, I'm fine, fine. How's the mattress business, Lorraine?
Very funny. It's too bad, Banjo, that your pictures aren't as funny as you seem to think you are.
Oh, you've got me there, Mama. Oh. Say, you look in the pink, Lorraine. Anything in the wind, Whiteside?
Not a glimmer.
What time does the boat sail?
10 minutes.
What boat is this?
The good ship up the creek. Oh, well, you feel fine, huh, Lorraine?
What? Yes, of course I do. Where's that breakfast, Sherry?
Maggie emerges from the library, a sheaf of papers in her hand. She stops imperceptibly as she hears Lorraine.
I've listed everything except the New Year's Eve broadcast. Wasn't there a schedule on that?
I think it's on the table there someplace.
Thank you.
She turns to the papers on the table.
New Year's Eve? Oh, Bert and I'll hear it in Lake Placid. You were at my cottage up there once, weren't you, Sherry? It's lovely, isn't it? Away from everything. Just snow and clear, cold nights.
The doorbell rings.
Oh, that's probably Bert. I told him to meet me here.
Maggie, as though she had not heard a word, goes quietly into the library.
You know, I'm looking forward to Lake Placid. Bert's the kind of man who will do all winter sports beautifully.
Will he get time?
Voices are heard from the hallway.
Whiteside?
Yes, sir.
American Express.
John backs into the room, obviously directing a major operation.
Yeah, all right. Come ahead. Careful now. Careful. Yeah, yes. Just right in here. It's for you, Mr. Whiteside.
Why, Sherry, what is this?
Come two expressmen, groaning and grunting under the weight of nothing more or less than an Egyptian mummy case. It seems that Mr. Whiteside's friends are liable to think of anything.
Where do you want this?
Just right there.
Dear God, if there was one thing I needed right now, it was an Egyptian mummy.
Merry Christmas from the Khedive of Egypt. What did you send him, Grant's tomb?
Mr. Stanley, drawn by the voices of the expressmen, has descended the stairs in time to witness his newest hue and cry.
5 minutes, Mr. Whiteside.
He indicates the mummy case.
Including that.
And up the stairs again.
What was that all about? Who is that man?
He announces the time every 5 minutes. I pay him a small sum.
But what on earth for, Sherry?
I lost my watch!
From the hallway, a familiar figure peeps in.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Whiteside. Are you busy?
Good God.
I've written a new chapter on the left kidney. I suppose
He smiles apologetically at Lorraine and Banjo.
Pardon me.
Goes into the library.
Is that the plumber again, Sherry? Oh dear. I wonder where Bert is. Darling, you're not very Christmassy. You're usually bubbling over on Christmas morning. Who sent this to you, Sherry? The Khedive of Egypt? You know, I think it's rather beautiful. I must go to Egypt someday. I really must. I know I'd love it. The first time I went to Pompeii, I cried all night. All those people, all those lives. Oh, where are they now? Sherry, don't you ever think about that? I mean, I do. Here was a woman like myself, a woman who once lived and loved, full of the same passions, fears, jealousies, hates. And what remains of any of it now? Just this and nothing more.
She opens the case, then with a sudden impulse, steps into it and folds her arms, mummy fashion.
A span of 4,000 years, a mere atom in the eternity of time. And here I am, another woman living out her life. I want to cry.
She closes her eyes, and as she stands there immobilized, the eyes of Banjo and Whiteside meet. The same idea has leapt into their minds. Banjo, rising slowly from the couch, starts to approach the mummy case, casually whistling Dixie, but just before he reaches it, Lorraine steps blandly out.
Oh, I mustn't talk this way today. It's Christmas. It's Christmas.
Lorraine, dear, have you ever played St. Joan?
Oh, no, I haven't, Sherry. What makes you ask that?
There was something about your expression as you stood in that case, that there was an absolute halo about you.
Well, Sherry,
It
sweet.
It transcended any mortal expression I've ever seen. Step into it again, dear.
Sherry, you're joshing me, aren't you?
My dear, I don't make light of these things. I was deeply moved. There was a strange beauty about you, Lorraine, pure Da Vinci. Please do it again.
Well, I don't know exactly what it was, but I...
Starts to step into the case again.
Oh. No, I feel too silly, Sherry.
If it's somewhere on the ceiling.
Lorraine, dear, in that single moment, you approached the epitome of your art, and you should not be ashamed of it. You asked me a little while ago what I wanted for Christmas, for a Christmas present. All I want, Lorraine, is the memory of you in that mummy case.
My darling, I'm all choked up.
Crossing her arms, she takes a moment or two to throw herself in the mood, then steps reverently into the case.
Dust to dust thou art, and dust to dust.
Bang! Banjo has closed the case and fastened it. Whiteside leaps out of his chair.
Eureka!
There's service for you.
Will she be all right in there?
Sure, she can breathe easy. I'll let her out as soon as we get on the plane. What are we going to do now? How do we get this out of here?
Oh, one thing at a time. That's the next step.
Think fast, Captain. Think fast.
Maggie enters from the library, papers in hand. Whiteside scrambles back into his chair. Banjo is again the little innocent.
This is everything, Sherry. I'm leaving 3 carbons. Is there anything out here?
He inspects a small basket fastened to his chair.
What's in this basket?
Oh, nothing at all. Thank you.
Shall I file these letters? Do you want this picture?
No, throw everything away. Wait. Give me the picture. I want the picture.
The only thing I haven't done is to put all your broadcasts in order. Do you want me to do that?
What? Yes, will you do it? Do it right away. It's very important, Maggie. Right away. Very important.
I'll see you before I go, Banjo.
He goes into the library again, closing the doors.
I've got it.
What?
I knew I'd seen the face before. I knew it. Now I know how to get out of here.
What face? How?
At that instant, Mr. Stanley comes down the stairs, watch in hand.
Time is up, Mr. Whiteside. 15 minutes.
Yes, Mr. Stanley, 15 minutes, but just one favor before I go. I would like you to summon those 2 officers and ask them to help this gentleman down to the airport with this mummy case. Would you be good enough to do that, Mr. Stanley?
I will do nothing of the kind.
Oh, I think you will, Mr. Stanley. Or I shall inform my radio audience on my next broadcast that your sister, Harriet Stanley, is none other than the famous Harriet Sedley, who murdered her mother and father with an axe 25 years ago in Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Mr. Stanley quietly collapses into a chair.
Come, Mr. Stanley, it's a very small favor. Or would you rather have the good folk of Missalia repeating at your very doorstep that once popular jingle? Harriet Sedley took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks, and when the job was nicely done, she gave her father 41. Remember, Mr. Stanley, I too am giving up something. It would make a hell of a broadcast. Well?
Mr. Whiteside, you are the damnedest person I've ever met.
I often think so myself, old fellow. Officers, will you come in here, please?
Whiteside, you're a great man.
Let's give a reverent kiss on the mummy case.
Come right in, officers. Mr. Stanley would like you to help this gentleman down to the airport with this mummy case. He's sending it to a friend in Nova Scotia.
Collect.
Right, Mr. Stanley?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Handle it carefully. Banjo, my love, you're wonderful, and I may write a book about you.
Oh, don't bother. I can't read. Goodbye, Maggie. Love conquers all. Don't drop that case. It contains an antique.
And out he goes with the mummy case, to say nothing of Miss Lorraine Sheldon.
Sherry, was that?
It was indeed. The field is clear, and you have my blessing.
Sherry, you old reprobate.
Just send me a necktie sometime. My hat and coat, Maggie, and also your railroad ticket. I'm leaving for New York.
You're leaving, Sherry?
Don't argue, rat girl. Do as you're told.
Yes, Mr. Whiteside.
He goes into the library just as Bert returns.
Mr. Whiteside, I want to apologize for.
Oh, don't give it a thought, Bert. There's been a slight change of plan. Miss Sheldon is off on a world cruise. I am taking your play to Catherine Cornell. Miss Cutler will explain everything.
Maggie brings Whiteside's coat, hat, and cane.
Oh, thank you, Maggie, my darling.
And just then, the doctor comes out of the library. You're on mute, Dr. Bradley.
Mr. Whiteside, are you busy?
Yes, doctor, very busy. But if you ever get to New York, doctor, try and find me.
He takes Maggie in his arms.
Goodbye, my lamb. I love you very much.
Sherry, you're wonderful.
Nonsense. Goodbye, Jefferson. You'll never know the trouble you've caused.
Goodbye, Mr. Whiteside.
Goodbye, Mr. Stanley. I would like to hear in the near future that your daughter has married her young man and that your son has been permitted to follow his own bent, or else. Merry Christmas, everybody.
And out he strolls, but the worst is yet to come. There is a loud crash on the porch, followed by...
Ah!
Maggie gives a little shriek and rushes out. Bert and the doctor rush after her. Down the stairs come Mrs. Stanley, June, and Richard. From the dining room, John and Sarah come running.
What's that noise?
What happened? And then we see, into view come Bert and the doctor, carrying Mr. Whiteside between them.
Miss Breen, I want Miss Breen! Mr. Stanley, I am suing you for $350,000.
Curtain. Ba-dum-bum.
Ba-da-bum.
Yay.
Yay!
And so we draw to a close this evening's edition of New Ambassador's Friday Night Footlights presentation of The Man Who Came to Dinner. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. For those of you who tuned in on YouTube, and of course, those of you who are tuning in at a later time, this has been a lot of fun for all of us. I am thrilled with this cast. I really got very fortunate in assembling this group, and I think we made a wonderful ensemble, and I only wish that there is someday we can do this in front of a live audience on an actual stage. I'm still talking like Whiteside, aren't I? Just to remind you that tonight at midnight is the deadline for submitting any 12-minute plays or less for our Blurring Boundaries Festival, which is coming up in June. And next week is our New Ambassadors Theatre Lab, our twice-a-month event where we present scenes from new work with some very valuable discussion time and feedback time for that particular work. That is all for tonight. I thank all of you for joining us. We're still live on YouTube. I'm waiting to see when we disappear. Thank you, Mr. Gill, our artistic director.